You are now listening to
Likely to Dispute,
hosted by Monkas, Reed, and Tyler. How's everybody doing? It's Cevan. Join with me today, as always, Reed and Tyler. Today we have half a special guest, Mr. Robert, aka Mr. Powerade, and this is episode 18 of Likely to Dispute.
Yeah, have a good final team breakdown episode today. We've got through all 12 teams, 12 weeks, a little bit delayed on this one, but we're getting it through. Rob, second time on the pod here following your Mahomes Madness trade. Say what's up to all the people listening.
Very excited to be here today. Pumped to talk about my team. Really appreciate that very heartfelt intro from Cevan. So, let's get at it.
And we have a perfect timing for this episode because two of the people on the episode today completed a trade just this morning. Tyler sent Jakobi Meyers and a 2028 fourth round pick, the first 2028 pick traded in the league, to Rob, who traded a 2026 second, that is Ian's pick, and a 2027 third, that was his own. So, Rob, we're going to start with you acquiring Jakobi Meyers for that notably empty flex spot in your lineup that has been for quite a while now. Give us your side of the trade here.
Well, yeah, as you said, I've been searching for another player that I felt comfortable in that last flex spot for me and to add some depth to my team overall. Just about half of the league owners have probably got a trade request from me seeking one of their wide receivers. So happy one actually was completed with Myers. Um, was excited to get him. Obviously, he's on the trade block. Tyler and I have talked a couple times this offseason about a couple different receivers. As you said, parted with some draft compensation, which I am in a pretty good place draft capital wise, in my opinion. And uh, the the top pick in that trade, the second rounder, I jokingly kind of refer to it as myself as an early third rounder just because it's Ian's second pick, but who knows what's going to happen with that. And then I had five third round picks over the next 2 years, so wasn't, was fine parting with one of those to add some
Mhm.
depth to get Myers, who I feel very comfortable with as a wide receiver four, and who I think is being slept on a little bit, just because people seem to think the Raiders are going to be getting rid of the forward pass this year. But feel really good. Pretty much how I want my team to be going into the season, barring anything unforeseen in the next couple weeks. So yeah, feeling good about it.
We have had guests on the pod comment on the Raiders' lack of forward passing this year. As I've noted, I disagree. I am also a fan of Jakobi Meyers, but I think the more important question with this trade is for Tyler. Is this the end of your competitive season this year? Is this a full-on fire sale? Is this James post week 3? Is everybody got to go? Or is this just a retooling? Or was this just too good to turn down?
let's relax with the throwing in the towel narratives. It's I don't think there's a ton of positive narratives with my team right now, but Terry McLaurin and his hold in, hold out situation, Joe Mixon still wearing that boot. There's definitely room to be worried about my team, but it's not time to, I guess, not time to fold this season quite yet. We'll see how the first few weeks turn out. Maybe someone like Devontae Adams shows out and he's a more valuable trade chip later than he is now. Same with like DJ Moore, if I were to go that route. But the reason I was comfortable trading Jakobi Meyers is I have some wide receivers on my bench. I still feel comfortable starting a flex spot like Christian Kirk or Demario Douglas, or if Kyle Williams gets off to a fast start in his rookie year. And I personally have just Jakobi Meyers kind of felt like a throw in to that trade I had with Ian where he traded me some picks and Jakobi for Emeka Egbuka. I've never been a huge supporter of Jakobi Meyers. I've never been a big Geno fan or Pete Carroll fan for that matter, just in fantasy football terms. Um, so I mean, I still valued Jakobi, but I was okay with parting for him. I think he'll be good this year, but after this year, I'm a little bit unsure of what he'll be. So if I can get value for him now before he were to fall off or
Mhm.
anything like that, then I'll take it.
Well, Per our research analyst, Mr. Cevan Walton, now following the two trades you've completed, you
Mhm.
traded away Emeka Egbuka and a 2028 fourth for a 2026 first, a 2026 second, a 2026 third, and two 2027 thirds. I'd say it's a pretty solid return. Shout out to Cevan for the research there. Um,
Yes.
I will note too that I get when Rob and I were forming the deal that I said your choice of the 2026 second, the 2027 third, and notably he decided to send me Ian's second over Savon's second. So I think that's signaling that Rob thinks Ian has better team than Savon. Don't think that's a hot take, but just to put it out
Yeah,
there.
we've all said that, so
Yeah,
that's
Just
just to
that's
confirm, that
fine.
was my line of thinking.
Yes.
I just think it's good to knock you down a few pegs when we can.
Yeah, just like when I traded
this is going to be stupid.
just
Cevan,
like
why don't
when
you
I
just give us your
traded
thoughts on the
George
trade first?
when I traded George Pickens, I traded my first instead of Rob's 27 first. So,
Cevan, give us your
yeah, we'll
thoughts on
talk
the
about
trade
Jakobi.
and talk about how Tyler's team continues to have no aura.
My thoughts, I mean, just a trade where both sides got what they wanted. Rob got uh that needed or that necessary last piece to complete his lineup and add a little bit of depth to the team. That's what he's been shooting for the last month or so. And then Tyler just continued to add picks. Tyler's team narrative is going to be fun to keep track of this season. All off season, it looks like it's been a little bit of the selling part, but now he's got assets that if this crapshoot of a team does hit, he's able to add pieces by the deadline with all that capital, or just keep accumulating draft capital and maybe next offseason spend it a little and get a little bit younger and whatnot. But um, I don't have a winner. Like I said, both sides got what they wanted, so it's pretty it's a pretty uninspiring deal. But it's
Well,
a deal nonetheless, which is always fun.
yeah, Tyler now has three 2026 firsts, two 2026 seconds, three 2026 thirds, and a 2026 fourth. For me, from Tyler's perspective, I think it makes sense. I just worry about the marginal returns on picks. Like, how many more picks can he acquire? And it feels like you've either got to cash some of them in now or continue to sell pieces to keep acquiring them. Because again, with all the things that he has going against his team right now, I mean, he was just hyping up Pop Douglas and potentially his starting lineup. It's I
Yeah.
mean, like then again, the other one he didn't even mention, Matthew Stafford is week to week right now. So if he has any sort of missed time, Devontae Adams' value then tanks even not even more. Devontae Adams' value then tanks if not Matthew Stafford is starting. So
Yeah.
um
I,
I'm
I,
go ahead.
sorry, I want to add one thing. With all seven picks you traded for Ibuka, not
Mhm.
one of them can outscore him this season.
That's a great research fact there from Cevan again. I'm a higher on Jakobi Meyers. He's a perfectly fine back and wide receiver too. Gino, I think, is a very good quarterback, and he's going to get the ball out. He's going to get the ball to his playmakers, and he's got. I think he's just better than people give him credit for because of the Seahawks' record and their quality or lack thereof of their O line. So I do think the Raiders are in a good spot this year, and I do like Jakobi Meyers, even if the volume does go down. Um, from last year when they were trailing in every game, I still think there's going to be plenty of forward passes to give him some value, and I think he's a good player. So overall, like similar to Savan, I don't think there's a winner right now. I think both it was mutually beneficial for both sides, and I think it makes a huge bump for Rob's team, who we've just been kind of grading under the assumption that he makes a move to fill that last flex spot. Finally, seeing the move get made is good to have that resolved for now. So, any last thoughts on the trade before we move on?
Can you get? I have a full starting lineup in the sleeper right now. Can you guys guess my winning percentage against Deshaun right now for week one?
43.
Uh,
37.
37. Reed.
40 and a half.
Rob is closest. I'm at 35% right now against Deshaun. And
To be
that's,
fair, he is the highest projected team score for week one right now.
yes.
To be
And
fair.
Joe Mixon and McLaurin are both on the pup list. So that's
Hmm.
where that kind of comes into.
And Justin Fields almost died like 3 days ago, so but he's
Yeah.
back now. So, okay, we're gonna kick it now over to host Monkas for the episode to take over for the question of the day and the team summary.
Let's get it on. So I prepared for this, the question of the day. So if you guys need to look back to see exactly what it was, you can. But question of the day is, to this point, what is your favorite off-season trade you have made so far? Like I said, I prepared for this, so I'll go first. Um, Individually, player acquisition, my favorite player has been to acquire was Rome Odunze. Um, in the trade itself, it was ETN, Penix, Rome, and a 26 second that I received for DK Brees, a 25 and 26 first. And when I'm talking about favorite, it's just I included Rome as the player I was most happy with getting, but that was the overall trade. And big Rome believer, probably a little bit of Bears bias, but oh, that's a lot of B's. Also Ben Johnson. So
Big
um,
BJ fan.
yeah, does anybody else have one they can talk about right now?
Well, one does come to mind, Cevan, and it's funny you should mention it because it's been a big off season for me, a lot of roster turnover, acquiring Brees Hall in a deal that included DJ Moore, just acquiring Jakobi Meyers. But I think my off season defining trade and favorite trade has been between the one between you and I, where you acquired Marvin Harrison Jr., my first round
Yeah,
pick this year and my first round pick in 2027 in exchange for Ladd and Patrick Mahomes. It's great for me because I desperately needed that second quarterback, and you felt so sure of Michael Penix Jr. and Drake May that you were like, I don't even need Patrick Mahomes on my team. Get him out of here. So really happy with that. I think it could be very good for you because you're just loading up on Marv's uh, receiving class, and that could do big things for you. But feeling good having the Lad Herbert stack in my lineup, and always good to see, feel good about both quarterbacks in your starting lineup, and having Pat sure does that for me.
Can I
yes, sir.
use that trade as my favorite trade of the offseason?
Negative.
But I observed the trade, so like that should be enough to count.
I would assume it was your Rice overpay.
No, it wasn't. It was acquiring Kenneth Walker and selling high on Rome, which is boring because it's a five-way trade, so it's everybody's favorite trade. But it's boring, but Kenneth Walker's really good. You guys are sleeping on him. And I sold high on Rome, got Garrett Wilson, just got paid $130 million. So it's boring. I don't have anything fun. I didn't like paying that much for Rasheed, but you got to get your guys when you can get them. So,
I'm actually surprised you didn't say the Josh Downs trade.
well, I mean, that one's also, every trade I make is a banger, so it's pretty hard to decide. I just know you guys are sleeping harder on Kenneth Walker since you're a big Josh Downs guy, and Anthony Richardson's lighting up Colts camp right now. So then everybody's going to be in on Josh Downs. So, you know, it's not really under the radar anymore now as it was when I made it. So,
All right, and Tyler?
Yeah, my favorite ones, and I need no interruptions for this, please. It's Tank Bigsby for Rashad
Oh
Bateman.
my
let's
God.
go.
Uh, the players, I love both the players, quite honestly. If I uh could trade back for Rashad Bateman, I'd probably consider it.
He's probably
Hey,
available, if I had to
Trent,
guess.
I'll throw you my 326 first for Rashad Bateman back. No, I think I don't something about a one for one trade is just pretty aesthetically pleasing like that. And when it's a different position, trading away, I traded away a receiver and got back a running back. I just think that it's just really nice on the eyes when you look at the history tab of the player's profile. And it does help that Tank Bigsby has been a big topic in early training camp hype so far. So I love the trade. I'm a big believer in Tank. I know not everyone here is, and that's okay. But I I thought it was nice. I liked it. It's not some barn burner. It's not gonna light the league on fire. It's just a nice, solid one for one depth trade.
I
Yeah,
appreciate a humble trade like that. Those are the trades that make you feel like the Billy Bean meme when you're sitting there
Yeah,
with your shades and
it
your visor
does.
on. And then, especially if it pays off, that's a good feeling.
Definitely.
yeah. Luckily for you, you've made with the Mixon news, you've made two one-for-one trades for running backs this offseason. The other one being with me, Swift for Andrews. So,
Yeah, that one's solid too.
Kind of a banger for Tyler, too.
yep. All right, let's get on to the
This is
episode.
gonna be like a 2.5 hour episode. I can already tell.
All right, so Rob, we got the good old Powerade as the picture. That's a great selection. Very aesthetically pleasing, fits in with the theme. All right, well, we can see I am in a tier of my own for Robert's tiering. I've got him in playoff aspirations. Reed, Tyler, and Rob all have Rob in contenders. Just a quick overview on Keep Trade Cut. Uh, it's about middle of the pack everywhere. We got sixth for quarterbacks, fifth for running backs, second for receivers. Was this updated today?
Yes, I did update it.
What, do you remember what it was before the
I
Jakobi?
believe he was fourth in wide receiver. So,
Jakobi got that big of an upgrade?
well, I mean, again, who else did he have on his roster other than the three he had in his starting lineup? So it
It's
makes a
true.
big jump for that depth that you don't
Yeah.
respect even a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Because he
And then
jumped your ass in wide receivers too.
completely fine. And then almost dead last in tight end with old Evan Ingram there. Sixth in picks and eighth in age. 2024, 6 and 8. Similar to Sumner. Same record. He finished 10th in points for. That was really the big difference there. And yeah, so I will let you guys go first, and then I will combat with where I have him. Rob, why don't we start with you on why you see yourself as a contender?
Well, can I first just say the Powerade image? I'm feeling very refreshed right now, so I think that's a good way to start this conversation. But
Yes.
no, what I said in our last section, my team is very basically revamped almost completely from what it was last year, at least from a starting lineup perspective, where you've got some carryovers with Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson, of course, but bringing in Breece Hall to give me a starting running back combo that I didn't have for basically all of last year. Bringing in Ladd and Jakobi Meyers, one of Lad's case, that was a flip with Marv, so some similarity there, but bringing Jakobi on board to provide some depth. I'm feeling we'll get to this later, but feeling better about um, Evan Ingram's situation this year and hoping he can stay healthy to solidify that tight end spot in my lineup. And um, I feel good about my running back depth with mostly Jalen Warren, but Tony Pollard to a degree, and basically having the Rams handcuffed there. And, um, again, we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but didn't have a pick until the third round in the rookie draft, but thought I made good use out of those picks. I know one player in particular made all of you mad that you didn't acquire him. So feeling good, feel like I'll bounce back after a 2024 that didn't go very well. The 6-8 record may even be better than it felt at times last year. So feeling good, feel like can stack up with just about anybody in the league, and excited for the year to get going.
Yes, sir. Tyler, we'll go to you next. Why's Robin contenders?
I think his team is squarely in that contenders tier, much definitely a tier above some of those middling teams that we talked about in the previous few weeks with, Andrew and both Cams, myself now included. So I think Rob's team is right there with the top, right near you two actually, Reed and Cevan. So I guess I'll talk more about the team specifically, but I would certainly expect a better record than 6-8 this year.
Oh, wait, before Reed goes, can I say one more thing?
Hmm.
Yep.
Just wanted to mention that I also had this problem last year of really only having one playable quarterback option at a time and kind of forcing someone else into that super flex spot. So I really appreciate having someone like Patrick Mahomes on my team, and that so thankful that someone on this call was willing to trade him to me.
We all know
Yeah.
Savon's willing
I'm
to donate to the poor.
I'm right there with you. Last year's quarterback situation was not pretty. Reed can attest to that when he got belt to ass from Spencer Rattler and Joe Flacco, and that was a good week 6. But yeah, Reed, why don't you talk about Rob's team?
I don't have a whole lot more to say. We'll kind of talk about it throughout, but very strong starting lineup. Depth can be a little bit questionable, which I think is holding him back from the contender tier, but the starting lineup can go up against just about anybody.
Uh, when you say it's holding him back from the contenders tier,
Sorry, from the
I mean,
favorites tier. My bad.
okay. I was gonna say,
My apologies.
Yeah, no, I agree with. I was pretty much going to say exactly what you just did. I really like the starting lineup. Um, it's just the depth for me that's the separator. I will say, I you're at the very top of this tier for me. My tier breaks at five. I have you right at six. We'll get to the odds at the end, but I have you with an above 50% chance to get there. So let's get on
I
to
think it's an absolutely
MVP.
blasphemous ranking from you to have Cam Thorne ahead of him. Just wild take.
That's fine. I did predict him to win the league.
It,
So,
it was a hot take. It barely counts.
okay. All right. Justin Jefferson is Robert's MVP. Couldn't agree more. Why is he the MVP?
Well, I think it's obvious. He is one of the handful of true S tier fantasy options. Once again this year, he was, I believe, the first non-QB taken in our inaugural draft for good reason. He's never finished lower than wide receiver six in a season in which he's played at least 16 games, and that was his rookie year. He's the all-time leader in yards per game receiving. He's done it with Kirk Cousins. Done it with Sam Darnold, and I'm pretty confident he's going to do it again this year with JJ McCarthy. So thrilled absolutely to have Justin Jefferson on my team as locked into that wide receiver one spot, and he's, I think, clearly the MVP for my team.
Yeah, I'll just I'll touch on that real quick. Everything you said, then obviously throwing Kevin O'Connell, he's gonna get Justin Jefferson the ball. Best wide receiver in the NFL, most consistent wide receiver in the NFL over 5 years. The most obvious MVP, I think, maybe of all the teams. Reed, let's go to you. Patrick Mahomes as his MVP.
Yeah, he's just really good. And I think it's important to note that the value provides over what he had last year, although that hasn't historically been a criteria for consideration in this section. I think it's important to note that foresee a better fantasy season for him this year than he had last year or 2 years ago. The left tackle spot is hopefully solved. The first week of camp is any indication of Josh Simmons. Left tackle is solved. Hopefully the receiver core is back healthy. Hopefully Rice isn't getting suspended that long. I just think this is going to be, again, a bounce back year for his standards. I think the Chiefs offense will be a lot better. So I think that quarterback duo he has is going to crack some heads this year.
Yeah, Tyler, any follow up on Mahomes?
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I picked Mahomes over Jefferson just because I think this is probably the year that there's been the most risk associated with Jefferson coming into a season since
Facts.
he broke out. So I'll take in a Superflex league the safeness of Pat as one of your QBs every week over Jefferson with a rookie quarterback and also with a new hamstring injury.
I don't think safeness is a word. That sounds like something Cevan would say.
Uh, Safeness.
Cannot confirm if it's a word.
That's
Can type it in
embarrassing.
really
That's
quick.
embarrassing. If I,
We all got what you were
oh,
saying, but
I'll get
uh,
back to you.
I think what we're looking for is the safety of Patrick Mahomes.
Safeness is a word, confirmed. Good
By
job,
what?
Tyler.
Urban Dictionary?
Nope, it didn't get the red squiggly line on iMessage.
I don't think that's how that works.
It is.
Okay,
All right.
Yes, it
Most
is
imp
a word. I can confirm by Google
nails.
search.
it is
Let's
confirmed.
go.
Most improved, Evan Ingram, newly acquired tight end via, actually, I'm not going to say that, by the Denver Broncos. Robert, Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I'm a big Evan Ingram fan. I was a big fan last year when I drafted him when he's still in Jacksonville, and it was a very disappointing year based on production and injury. So very excited to see what he does in Denver this year. He only played 9 games last year after back-to-back top five fantasy PPR finishes. It's interesting going to Denver because there was not much tight end production at all for the Broncos last season. I believe Adam Troutman was their top tight end with only like 13 receptions. They didn't have anyone like Ingram last year, and he's someone who can definitely fit into what Sean Payton calls his Joker role and create those mismatches downfield. And I think this is a prime position and circumstance for Evan Ingram to bounce back and even to maybe elevate Bo Nix in season two after a largely successful rookie season.
Yeah, we're in agreement again. I think if he stays healthy, plays the majority of the season, he'll be no doubt a top 12 tight end. Yeah, I mean, they were rolling out guys like Lucas Kroll last year. It's
Greg
not a world you
Dulcich,
want
rip.
to, exactly. It's not a world you want to be living in for Sean Payton when he's coming from, guys like Jimmy Graham, and that's all I can think of. But Taysom Hill,
It's like 15 years
etc.
ago.
Yeah, but no, especially with the lack of weapons, in my opinion, that they had last year, getting a tight end, someone that can work over the middle. He's proved he's good in roles like that. So it'll be very interesting to see the role that Evan Ingram gets this year. Reed, will go to you. Brees Hall being the most improved.
Yeah, fully agree on Evan Ingram there. I just wanted someone different here. Brees Hall, I think last year is kind of the floor of what we'll see for him. Uh, Fields, everyone just kind of assumes with the rushing aspect that it kind of hurts Brees, but he checks the ball down a lot. He's going to be an improvement on the overall quarterback play from 2 years ago, and then with Rodgers not airing the ball out nearly as much, so more rushing attempts, potentially more check down attempts. I'm not necessarily a Braylon Allen hater like Tyler is. But in the end of the day, I do think Brees is the lion's share owner of any sort of committee that goes on. So I just think last year is kind of the floor of what we'll see, and I'm excited to see what he does in the new coaching staff all around. I think they just needed a full culture flip there. So yeah, I think he's a good one with Evan Ingram, two guys that could really turn around Rob's season from 10th place last year.
Yep. And then Tyler, you want to
Yeah,
touch on Brees a little bit?
yeah, totally agree. Was gonna bring up the checkdowns as well and how Justin Fields throws quite a bit of those. It's also Brees Hall's contract year, and he talked about recently about how he's motivated and not disgruntled or anything like that. And I know it's like, how much does that really mean? But I mean, that's definitely not hurting any narratives with Brees this year. Kind of like Kenneth Walker, as I know Rita talked about him being in his contract year as well. So I love Brees this year.
Brees would never hold in or hold out like Terry McLaurin would. He's a team player.
Okay.
Well put. Let's get on to the sleeper. This is where Rob has Brees Hall. Now, this might be a little controversial on Brees Hall being a sleeper, but can you explain to us why he's a sleeper?
Yeah, let me explain. And it's sort of in tandem with most improved, but here's why I put him in sleeper. So looking back since last October, I believe it is, at least that's when I last looked, Brees Hall has dropped from RB2 to RB9 on Keep Trade Cut. He's currently RB14 as far as sleeper season projections, at least for our league. A few ESPN experts that I looked at, a handful of them, have him as low as their RB20-ish. And this combined with, whether it's on Twitter, maybe some people in our own league who may say that Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis are ready to push Brees out of meaningful fantasy production. What I say to that is, to quote Jets great Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax. I'm not saying Brees is going to, reach the heights of being overall, 1-2 conversation again. I don't think that's realistic, but I think his value has sunk so much over the last year that he's considered value-wise to be a sleeper. And yes, as Reed was talking about a little bit, he is coming off of a bad season, career low in yards per touch. He dropped like 8 or 9 passes. He had a fumbling problem. 40th graded overall running back by a Pro Football Focus. But um, as one veteran AFC personnel executive was quoted in ESPN, that's not all his fault. He was in a bad offense, still has good lower body balance and home run juice. And I completely agree. We're out of the ugliness of the Rodgers Hackett era of the Jets offense. And by the way, I think they had the fewest rushing attempts in the NFL last season, which just seems odd. And sure, Aaron Glenn says he prefers to use a three running back rotation, but Glenn also comes from somewhere that's a good example as any that you don't need a Derrick Henry type workload to be a high tier fantasy running back. He's also told Brees that he wants him here after the whole trade rumor thing. And um, I think it's just important to remember when you're talking about splitting touches, we're also talking about a player who just a couple of seasons ago was running back to PPR in fantasy while playing 12% fewer snaps than he played last year, at least for the Jets. And yeah, to echo some points that you guys have made, he's heading into a contract year. He's going be playing behind a much better offensive line this year. He's playing with Fields, who, like Reed said, there's this stereotype or whatever word you want to use that a running quarterback is going to hurt his production, but he has one of the highest, if not, I think last year, maybe even the highest check down percentage among qualified quarterbacks in the league. Um, and this is a special player. He's fourth in the NFL in yards after contact per attempt since 2022 per Yahoo Sports. He's got that home run ability, and even if he's not a 20 25 touches per game running back, and there just aren't that many of them. I think he has by far the highest upside in the Jets backfield from touch to touch, and he's still going to get those touches and has the ability to do anything on any given play that I think firmly will have him on the back end of the high end running back radar this season. And, within a couple months is going to be far better standing value wise than his current ADP or whatever may suggest. So I think this is going to be a real return to form type of year for Breece Hall. And yeah, one that I think is going to improve his value so much that where he is right now, to me, is he's a sleeper.
I think it's safe to call Rob our most prepared guest. This guy came
Yeah.
to fight if anyone
I was
disagreed with him.
I was gonna say that's some elite analysis and probably the most extensive analysis we've had yet on the pod. So applaud you for that. We got three different we've got four different options for sleeper. I've got Tony Pollard, Reed has Jalen Warren, Tyler has Justin Herbert. Tyler, let's start with you. Why is this going to be the year for Justin Herbert?
Who's sleeping on this man?
Well, is that why you laughed originally?
Yeah,
Because
I laughed because I don't know who's sleeping on Justin Herbert.
I think people are sleeping on Justin Herbert. In a world full of fantasy football players who love their dual threat QBs, me included, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Drake May, you name it.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, exactly. I think Justin Herbert's being extremely slept on. I value him as a top 12, um, as a QB1, I guess, this year. Last year, he had 25 total touchdowns, 23 passing, two rushing, only three interceptions. This is his second year in the offense with John Harbaugh. Added a few weapons in Hampton and Trey Harris. I think there are people sleeping on Justin Herbert, especially when he'll be at the bottom of Rob's team lineup in that super flex spot. So I, I, I don't know. Maybe he's not being slept on, but I think Justin Herbert just he stays out of the news, and he's been consistently very good to elite every year he's been in the league. That people just don't talk about him as much. So I think he is almost as safe as an asset as Patrick Mahomes is, and so that's why I have him as a sleeper.
My second
Oh,
laugh wasn't on your analysis. It was the fact that you cited where he was in Rob's literal lineup on Sleeper as the super flex. That is the
It's
reason people
true.
were sleeping on him.
He's sneaky down there.
I
Obviously, he's been downgraded because he was in the quarterback spot as the team captain, and now he's in the super flex. He's been downgraded.
I like having Justin down there with Loud right above him.
Oh
Nice
yeah,
dynamic duo
that's
right there.
nice.
That's the kind of chemistry you can't teach right there.
No. And Tyler, I do kind of see what you're saying because, Herbert is, I think very respected among all of us. But he hasn't been a top 10 finish QB wise. And one year that's maybe because there was an injury, but hasn't been a top 10 QB guy since 2021 when he was
Yeah,
QB2 overall. So there's been some issues with maybe his weapons or maybe who his coach was at a given time. But
yeah.
I do think it'd be, certainly in my case, refreshing to see him back in that, top eight or whatever QB conversation.
Yeah, here's one stat I'll leave you guys with. In the past three seasons, there's only been two quarterbacks that have more than 65 passing touchdowns and less than 20 interceptions, and Justin Herbert's one, and MVP Lamar Jackson's the other. So definitely a mark of consistency.
Mhm.
Herbert is so.
Two things for me on Herbert. One, I believe you opened with calling him a dual threat, and I don't think I can go as
No,
far as.
I'm saying he's not a dual
Mhm.
threat. I'm saying
Oh, okay. I
everyone
thought.
loves dual threats, and
Yes,
he's
yes,
not.
yes. Gotcha. Okay. Sorry. My bad. Um, and then the other part was I think I can agree with the sleeper part in the sense that there was a clear change last year in their style of offense, uh, coming after when Gus was being his inefficient self and J.K. Dobbins was hurt. They let Justin Herbert air it out, and the offense. I don't have the numbers, but the offense improved. We'll just keep it at that. And their points per game over that stretch as well was better than it was in the first half. So uh, them beefing up the O line again. They got Mekhi Becton from the Eagles, two new investments in running back, two new receiver investments with a potential of a Keenan Allen return looming. Um, Very real world where even in this Jim Harbaugh offense that he can return to maybe like you were saying a top 8 or so quarterback, and that'd be huge for Rob. And now we'll get to you, Reed, on Jalen Warren being a sleeper. Why is this the year that he finally turns into something relevant?
Spoken like a true Caleb Johnson stan. I think. Well, first, I mean, again, there are levels to a sleeper. Like, I'm not saying that Jalen Warren has the same upside as Justin Herbert because that would be ridiculous. I'm saying that I think Jalen Warren has real potential to be a fantasy starter. At least, again, a borderline fantasy. How do I want to phrase this? He's someone that I think will have sneaky value because uh, as we assuming that the Steelers are going to adapt to Rodgers' skill set. He's not his arm isn't what it used to be. Those checkdowns are an important part of his offense. Jalen Warren is both a good pass catcher, but also a very good pass blocker. So he ends up taking a lot of third downs. That's why that's how he was able to carve out a role with the Steelers in the first place. Was it the Iowa offense or was it Caleb Johnson that, he just didn't catch a ton of passes in college? So I don't know which one it was. Is he capable of it? We'll see. But I think there's a role for Jalen Warren to carve out and hopefully a better Steelers offense that supports a good offensive line and will likely be running a lot of two tight end sets after the acquisition of Mr. Jonnu Smith. So I think there's a chance here, especially for a team that might lack a little bit in depth. I think there's a chance for Jalen Warren to become a piece that Rob feels confident in playing at some point in the season, if not for, a good portion of the season.
Yeah, the Steelers' offense is going to be interesting to watch this year. Just with the way, with them bringing in Rodgers, him going from Devontae Adams, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson to only DK Metcalf. It'll be very interesting. We'll see.
Maybe it'll be Will Howard. We don't know. Will Howard went pretty high in our draft, so
That's true. And Will Howard also played against Caleb Johnson at Iowa. Good connection.
wow.
All right. Me for Tony Pollard. Um, he's just been good over the last 4 years. I know last year was the first year on Tennessee. Uh, he's 28, so he's over the age cliff for a running back, but he hasn't fallen off yet. So over the last 3 years, he's had over 1,000 rushing yards, over 1,300 total yards in each of those years, over 300 touches in each of those years. And now I know they said, uh, can't think of their head coach's name.
Brian
Um,
Callahan?
Brian Callahan.
Bo Callahan.
Callahan. Yes, Bo Callahan. Um, he said at the beginning of last year they were going to be in a timeshare with Tajay. Now, I know Tajay was injured, um, but at some point Tony Pollard was just a more dependable and better running back. Now he went into the year saying the exact same thing, but with how Tony Pollard was last year, he wasn't. Uh, sorry, looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, he wasn't the most efficient like back in the Cowboys days. Uh, that's no surprise when you have Will Levis under the helm. And so with an improved quarterback situation, things are only going to be able to go up, in my opinion. And yeah, I think he's probably a cheaper buy this offseason that Rob kind of just has on his team and will be able to insert on bye weeks and etc. That for a team like Reed's, he would be a perfect RB3 for if Reed could buy him, but I don't think that's going to be able to happen.
I am a fan, but I don't know if I'm willing to pay the price when I got two uninjurable studs at running back, so probably won't need him.
There we go.
I'm also a Tony Pollard fan, but I'm also an advocate of Tajay Spears as well. So I'm kind of torn on what I think his role or how much of the workload he's going to take this year. So we'll see.
All right, getting on to best value. Now, this is a hot topic. We've got Bucky Irving for Rob, and tell us why he's the best value.
Let me tell you about Bucky Irving. So he was a 14th round pick by myself in our inaugural draft, and he ended the last season as RB 13 in a PPR league. He averaged 5.4 yards per rush and was targeted 52 times and only played about 45% of the Bucks offensive snap counts. I'll absolutely take that. And just listen to some of this stuff that I pulled from Pro Football Focus. He averaged 0.29 avoided tackles per attempt and um, was also very high in avoided tackles per route ran, which were both the best among running backs last season. He also led the league in yards after contact per attempt at 4.03, and the percentage of his carries that gained at least 30 yards at 3.4%. His snap load exploded. He was between 31 and 36% of snaps in September and worked his way up to about 70% in January. And a point that I'm very excited about, I know there's been some change in the Bucks offense from a coaching perspective, but as you know, on the field, they retained all of their five starting offensive linemen who played who all played at least 950 snaps, offensive snaps last season, including the playoffs. I think he's going to build off of a very impressive rookie season that some might not have seen coming, a very efficient rookie season, coming back with basically the same Bucks offense. And despite that coaching turnover, I think a lot of similarities with schemes and usage. And to do what he did last year and looking at what he might do this year, getting that in the 14th round of our inaugural draft is tough to beat.
Yeah, definitely. I know Tristan Wirfs is going to be out the first month of the season, so
Sure.
yeah, it shouldn't. I mean, it'll affect Baker, I think. We'll see how it affects the run game, if it affects the run game at all. But that's really the only concern offensive wise is losing your all-pro left tackle. But
Yeah, and if the biggest fear is, thankfully it does sound like he's going to be out a few weeks. Thankfully, it sounds like it's not going to be something that takes him out for too long of the season. So I think that's something the Bucks can live with right now.
yeah. So me and Tyler both had the same. I probably shouldn't have shared my notes with Rob on Bucky because he just took everything I was going to say. Um,
I
but yeah,
appreciate the assist.
yep. No, Bucky, where you got him. I want to ask one question, Rob. If you can think back to the inaugural draft, was Bucky someone like that was on your radar, or was it just kind of a recognizable name when you were picking?
Yeah, he's someone I was more aware of because, for the listeners who don't know, I'm currently based in Tampa. So I'm around the Bucks a lot. I've done some reporting on the Bucks, and so he was a name that was coming up a lot in rookie camp or training camp or whatever. And he was, one of those late round running back targets, especially for someone like me who didn't take a running back very high at all. And, we know how that turned out last year. But he was someone that I was, one of those guys I was hoping to get and was excited to get and was, blown away by the production I got out of him, especially on that back half of the year.
I think if I remember correctly, your highest drafted running back was Zamir White. Am I wrong?
That sounds right. And just rest in peace to a squad member who's no
Hmm.
longer with the team today after that trade with Tyler. He didn't do much for me, but he was along for the ride nonetheless.
A zero RB build in a dynasty league is a tough one to do, and because I believe you went like Zamir and then Jalen Warren with back to back picks after not having taken some. So Bucky really really came to the rescue with that running back room.
Yeah, and Warren didn't have, he was, up and down. I
Hmm.
believe he was injured at times last year or something like that. So it was I had Tyler Goodson in my lineup at points last year, and he was
Oh
semi-productive
boy.
for a couple games, but we're looking better this year.
Bucky is the savior. Tyler, do you want to touch on Bucky?
No, you guys killed it. I don't have anything else.
Perfect. Well, let's just get right on to the next one.
Do I
No,
even
I'm
have
just
to
kidding.
say anything?
I'm just kidding.
We
Yeah,
haven't.
go.
We've barely made any jokes about that trade. I mean, acquiring Patrick Mahomes for when you put it into a vacuum, two first round picks is quite a trade. So acquiring a player, a franchise altering player, a cornerstone player that you'll have for the next half decade at the very minimum is a pretty good value for me. So No disagreement on Bucky Irving, but Pat, that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, you always want to acquire a top end quarterback like that when given the chance, especially if you have a rocky quarterback foundation. So props to Cevan for getting his quarterback room in a place where he's comfortable partying with Patrick Mahomes.
That was the nicest thing that could have possibly been said in the situation. Savon, what are you doing?
I, it's not
Hit
working.
the back arrow. No, you're going the wrong direction. Hit the
No,
back
I
arrow.
know the arrows weren't working. All right, there we go. Um, there we go. Okay, overrated. Robbie has altering opinions on Tony Pollard. Talk us through this one.
So you know how I've had a lot of data and anecdotal material to back up some of the last few things I've had to say. I don't have that so much for this one. This is more of a gut thing and just, being on the other end of things that Savan was talking about earlier, where he's had a lot of touches the last few seasons and despite what the coaches said, at times very much the guy out of the backfield for Tennessee last year. And I don't know. For me, he's going into his 28-year-old age 28 season after back-to-back seasons of 250 plus rushing attempts. I think it's fair to say got beat up behind a tough as part of a tough Titans offense last year. The coaching staff is once again saying it's going to be a 50-50 timeshare with Spears. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm a little pessimistic with him given his age or I don't know whatever it is that I think it's going to be more true timeshare this season, which is fine. I feel like we were just talking about. I feel more comfortable with my running backs this season with Bucky and Brees, and feel really good about Jalen Warren as my RB3 option right now. So having Pollard, is perfectly fine. Wouldn't feel terrible if on a bye week or if an injury pops up or whatever, sliding him into the lineup if needed. But he's just someone who I see some fantasy projections having him in the RB 20-ish range, 20 to 23-ish range. And a lot of times that's above Jalen Warren, which maybe it's just personal preference, but I feel a lot more comfortable about Jalen Warren's position and possible contribution this year than I do Pollard. So that's what, led me to this particular selection.
You, I want to pull the room real quick, just on the Warren versus Pollard. Just who you'd rather have between all four of us. Obviously, Robert is the Warren over Pollard. I'm Pollard over Warren.
Pretty comfortable Pollard over Warren for me as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. I couldn't even get noted Jalen Warren lover Reed on my side. It's a
Well,
tough
I
one.
mean, again, we're not going to like say assuming injury, but like Jalen Warren doesn't have this type of ceiling that Pollard does without an injury to Caleb Johnson. So, like again, if all things work out and they're able to somehow manage two starting running backs in the same offense, which is incredibly rare, Tyler, I think it's just much easier for Tony Pollard to see the vision, given he did it, and he did it the year before that, and he did it the year before that. So, yeah, again, the equation, just like Calvin Ridley, is pretty simple. A lot of stuff stays the same. Quarterback gets better. The O-line gets a little bit better. So
Sure, I
Yeah,
will say, I just want to emphasize, I'm not a Tony Pollard hater, and there weren't very many people. I guess we'll see who you guys have to say in my starting lineup that I was like, I think they're overrated. I think in Brees's case, maybe they're underrated or appropriately considered. So Tony's who stood out, but I'm by no means a get Tony Pollard out of here type of guy.
yeah. No, personally for me, like just going off last season and what it looks like it's going to be for me this season, like Tony Pollard to me is probably right on par. Maybe even I probably would rather even have him over Travis Etienne, to be honest. And so to me, I view Pollard more of like I think he's borderline like fine to be your RB2, but if you're viewing him as your RB4, obviously he's no higher than your RB3. But I think on just any given team, I think I would comfortably start him as my RB2, not just based on my roster. I think he is an RB2. Okay. I've got Jalen Warren, Reed has JSN, and Tyler has Bucky. Now This is a very interesting one. Reed, let's start with you on JSN being overrated.
Yeah, I don't have all the numbers that you would think I would have. I think it comes down to a couple of factors. One, the Seahawks O line is still not very good. You got a little bit better from last year, and again, as the Kenneth Walker owner, I really hope it gets a lot better. But they didn't make major additions, but they added a first round pick. Hopefully, their tackles are healthy. But regardless, it's still not going to be a great O line. Second off, taking DK Metcalf, stretching the field vertically off the receiving core and off the field makes it a lot harder for JSN to function in the underneath area, the intermediate to underneath area that he really thrives in. They just added the wonderful Cooper Kupp, who kind of functions in the same area. So one of them is going to have to play outside of what their presumed skill set is. Um, they fired Ryan Grubb because they want to run the ball more is the assumption. So presumably the passing volume goes down, a quarterback change. Again, Darnold thrived last year in O'Connell's system that was very vertical, that maximized both Jefferson and Addison's strengths. So I guess I'm just a little worried. Again, I'm not out on JSN by any means. He's a very good player. I just worry about, coming off an 1,100-yard season, taking away a receiver in Metcalf who took away a lot of attention, increased focus on the running game. I think a quarterback downgrade from Geno to Darnold. So just a little bit worried. Again, not out on him by any means. I just think he's a little higher than I would price him at.
It's interesting. I'll just butt in before Tyler speaks on Bucky that JSN, perhaps more than anyone on my team over the last year or so, is the player that the most people have either asked if he's available or when countering something, asked to add him to the equation. So just an interesting nugget, especially
Hmm.
having this overrated discussion that a lot of um, owners, for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, yeah, I think he's justifiably a very um, good receiver option going into this year, especially. But
Yeah,
he has a lot of suitors around the league, I
yeah,
guess.
very much so. No disagreement with that. He's a player that I would acquire if I needed a receiver, but just a little bit high price. And again, funny enough, you almost traded away that pick to me to take Rashee Rice and where you took him. What a wild round that was, where Rashee went, JSN went, Lad McConkey went, all in the same round. I believe it was the seventh round of the or says sixth or seventh round of the inaugural draft. But yeah, definitely someone who's spiked in value since you took him in the draft, and I am excited to see what he does. I'm just not a believer in the system around him is going to make it easy for him to improve on what he did last year, which I think is the hope for if you're a JSN owner.
It's also interesting, just to say one more thing. I remember with that pick coming down to either picking JSN, who of course I eventually picked, or Lad, and as fate would have it, they both make their way to me, and very pleased about that.
Neither would have been the wrong pick. You know who was the wrong pick in that round? Jonathan Brooks. That was the wrong pick in that round.
Rip.
Yeah, I agree with what you said on JSN Reed. Everything around JSN got worse. Um, we'll see about the play caller. I know he had those 2 weeks of success last year, but he does come from a very good Kubiak tree with his father running his system in San Francisco, I think, or the Redskins. I can't remember.
Whoa,
Um,
whoa, whoa, whoa. We
but
don't we don't want to get we don't want to get canceled here for using slurs.
sorry, but yes, adding making JSN the de facto number one while having, in my opinion, no, well, I'll say no elite playmakers around him. Um, it will be interesting. Uh, no, that's not a, I mean, Cooper Kupp's not an elite playmaker in today's age. He's n nowhere near DK Metcalf. I don't think that's controversial at all.
It's going to be like
He,
Beetlejuice. You're going to activate Tyler till he bursts into
well,
flame
I
defending
don't
Cooper
even know.
Kupp.
I don't even know if he's on Tyler Lockett's level anymore. Um,
That
but
may be a bit
anyways,
much.
if you have Cooper Kupp and JSN who have very similar skill sets, it'll be interesting to see if they try and move JSN more outside and let Cooper Kupp play in the slot because he's deteriorated and it's easier to play in the slot, or what they'll do, and then not having an established tight end like um, Darnold did in the Vikings. Obviously, you can't replicate Justin Jefferson or Kevin O'Connell. So be very interesting to see on Jason. Uh, Tyler, Bucky Irving overrated. Let's hear it.
Okay, so this is important to remember that we're just talking about this year. I think Bucky Irving is obviously a very valuable asset long term in Dynasty. Right now in redraft leagues, Bucky Irving is coming off the board as the eighth running back. And I know I have him a little bit outside my top 10 this year. Everyone loves, including Reed, to write off Rashad White's season last year in our league scoring settings last year. Rashad White was he finished as RB 22, and that was not a front loaded RB 22 finish. He was consistently producing the whole season. I know Bucky's great, and I mean, I had him there as best value, so obviously I respect all that Bucky is. I just think he's being talked about a little bit too highly this year. And I think part of that comes to in that there was no other real stud rookie running back to come out of last year's draft class so far, at least. Brooks and Trey Benson were the top two running backs. They weren't much. So I Rashad White is still there. There's a new offensive mind in Tampa, and um, I I just am a little bit hesitant to put Bucky Irving in my top 10 running backs this year. I would take Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor, who are veterans who have produced as an RB1 multiple seasons over him right now. That would put Bucky as my RB 11 at that point. I think you could also make an argument for Kyron Williams this season over Bucky. So I'm not saying Rob's hyping him up to more than he should be or anything like that. I just feel like the way I see Bucky being talked about as a whole is just a bit too much for me this year.
I
And
don't think,
I do think that is a sorry to interrupt, but I do think that is an interesting point that Tyler brought up, where he's in a very crowded backfield, not just with Rashad White, but with Sean Tucker, who at times was also very productive last year.
Yes.
But I do think it's worth noting, like it's almost amazing how Tyler said that Rashad White was running back PPR number 22 or whatever he just said, and Bucky was still able to finish his PPR running back number 13. So I think it's proven, even if they're going to multiple guys or alternating drives or whatever they did last year, that, everybody can certainly get theirs, and certainly Bucky with the explosiveness and um, the importance in the receiving game that he presented, especially down the stretch. So it will be interesting if Tampa decides they like that three-headed monster of a backfield with Bucky leading the way, or if they decide that maybe they want to trade or deal one of their guys to slim things down a little bit, since they know they've got productive guys in that room. So it will be interesting to watch, but I'm certainly not worried about. Um, I guess I'll put it this way: I think Bucky's going to get his touches, and he'll certainly make the most out of them. But I understand where Tyler's coming from.
yeah. And I was gonna say to on what you said, Tyler, about Kyron, I don't think that's far off at all. I think they're probably very similar, probably in the same tier, at least in the 2025 outlook. Um, yeah, sorry. I was doing some math. I had one other thing on Bucky, but it completely. Oh yeah, yeah. The big thing I've seen, obviously, Bucky is like the actual sleeper accounts, like Baby. They just post him all the time. But one
Mhm.
thing I have seen on Bucky Twitter is he did everything he did last year on less than 50% of total snaps. So
That is
if he were
impressive.
if he were to get to like even that 70 mark, it could be very scary. But yeah, we'll see. Um, Jalen Warren for me, I did do some math for this. You can tell me if this is good or not. So obviously he's played 3 years. His career average in fantasy points per game is 8.53 in our fine dining settings. Um, very uninspiring. Uh, to me, he is the running back version of Justin Herbert. He's just always been the what if running back. What if Najee got
Stop
hurt?
this. This is bad.
Najee played every single game ever. I remember Reed and I think we had a bet at some point last year on Jalen Warren just getting to double-digit points, and obviously he didn't
He
because he
scored
doesn't.
8.9 points in a week we bet on whether he get double digits. I don't think that was a controversial bet.
Well, if we're just going back to last year, less than half of his games did he get double-digit points. So I just touching on what Reed said, it's going to take an injury, which is the what if part for Warren to be uber relevant, in my opinion. And over the last 3 years, like I said, Najee never missed a game, so we never got to see Warren in a full-time role. Now with a rookie coming in, we'll see if uh, Jalen can get an uptick in snaps or in touches to become relevant. I'm in under the impression that his role is going to stay the same.
That was really bad to call Jalen Warren the what if running back like Justin Herbert.
It's the only
Has Warren ever had a narrative that's not what if he
I
gets a
have
full-time
never
role?
I have never seen anyone call Jalen Warren something like akin to the what if running back. No one's ever talked about him like that.
I liked Warren last year, assuming he would take a bigger share of the workload, and then he got hurt before week one, and we never really got to see what it looked like. So,
So what if
in the past,
he never got
no,
hurt?
no, in the past, I've never drafted him, or I mean, it was just last year. I didn't like him 2 years ago before the season, but the, 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 I just think he's a good football player. I don't think it has anything to do with what if there's an injury. I said specifically when I was talking about him that you're not going to predict an injury, that I think he can carve out a role in a two-headed backfield this year.
We shall see. Do you think he's properly rated?
Yeah, I mean, where he's going, I don't, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't hear if someone mentioned where he was getting drafted, but when we do mocks, I don't look at him and be like, oh wow, I'd never take him there. So
Yeah.
it hasn't caught my eye as being egregious.
Well, we shall see.
Whereas Caleb Johnson, kind of an egregious ADP for a third round running back. Did you know the
so
Steelers just
The
signed
eighth
Jalen
round.
Warren to a second round restricted free agent tender, which is higher than Caleb Johnson would?
That's awesome. They also cut Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, his tweet was hilarious.
good stuff out of him. I just out of curiosity, and unless I'm looking at something incorrectly, in our looking at sleeper in our league, Jalen Warren's current ADP among running backs is 37.
Are you talking
So
about in redraft or in Dynasty? Which league are you
uh,
on?
dynasty.
Okay. Yeah, that his redraft ADP will be a little bit different than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll probably be higher. Um, yeah, I have no idea. Everybody good on these boys?
Yeah,
Sweet.
like all those guys. Glad they're on my squad.
Good. Droppable fun section. Rob's got Gardner Minshew. Why is he droppable?
Well, I think the question that most people are asking is why is he on your team, which makes it clear why he's droppable. But I guess to say why this spot was previously occupied again by Zamir White, thank you for your contributions. Gardner, obviously he's a backup quarterback. There's not a lot of need for one of those on a dynasty team. I picked him up last year, I think, when he was given an opportunity to start because of my quarterback woes and have kept him since then. I guess my explanation, and I'm not saying it's a good one, but why he's currently on my team is again, I don't have quarterback depth. I only have two guys who, given their current um, circumstances you'd even consider playing. And at this point in time, given that there's no one out there that I'm like, I need to pick this person up, if Pat were to go down, at least I have Gardner stepping in, and I think he's still a fantasy relevant quarterback in that system and with those guys around him. So that's why, for the time being, he's on my team. But uh, yeah, backup quarterback is certainly someone who should be considered droppable.
Yep, no disagreements there. Patrick's going to play at least 16 games, and so by the game he sits out, you won't need him. Tyler, any follow-up on Gardner?
Nothing else.
Devon Vele, now this might be controversial. Let's hear it, Reed.
Well, the reason I didn't put Gardner as the Joner
What?
As the owner of Joe Milton, combined Joe and owner, so it's Joe. As the owner of Joe Milton, I understand the value of having a quarterback handcuff, especially someone who's proven to be at least a low, like if you put him in the game's not over. Like he's a capable NFL quarterback in the event that he's playing. And obviously the Chiefs have a lot of weapons. So in Robert's situation, I totally understand. Okay, not totally. I can defend this decision to keep Gardner Minshew. If I were him, I would definitely drop Devon Vele over him. I don't, he's a 26-year-old rookie last year, 27 now. Sutton just signed an extension today, brought in Evan Ingram. Some people like Marvin Mims. Like, I just don't see a role where a 27-year-old rookie is fantasy relevant. Sorry, 26-year-old rookie, now 27-year-old sophomore is fantasy relevant in any scenario. I think the Broncos would like to keep the ball out of his hands for the sake of their team. So yeah, I just don't see it. But again, more so that I think Gardner Minshew is not he has a strong case to not be droppable on his team, but I thought there were a couple of players, and then obviously Zamir White did get dropped. So
I guess on your point, Reed, I only picked him up earlier this month, so he hasn't been there very long. The reason I took a bottom of the roster offseason dart throw at him is, yeah, again, he kind of weird that he was a 26-year-old rookie, but he was semi-productive last year, 55 targets, nearly 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. So it's not nothing, and the reason I picked him up is just to see where his stock was going to go going into training camp and had approaching the season, if there was going to be a more defined role, or at least
mhm,
maintaining that role, or if what they did this offseason was going to diminish that. So he's certainly not someone that I have a lot of stock in, but enough, I guess, that I was willing to dedicate a roster spot to him.
that's fair.
All right, let's get on to the memes and potatoes of the episode. So we're going over the quarterbacks first. We've got Justin Herbert, who was an original selection. Infamously, Robert traded back up because he missed out
Infamously.
on it was infamous. I remember Rob traded a whole bunch to get Mr. Herbert, and it's a good thing he did because wow, what would have happened if he didn't?
He probably would have
Um,
finished probably in the bottom three of the league.
Probably,
Who
maybe
knows,
even.
on the middle of a work day, I might have just sold off my whole team and been kicked out.
I know.
That's true.
James
Then
didn't
we
get kicked out. James left the league voluntarily after everyone bullied him for being
Yeah.
bad.
then we got
Poor
Mahomes
distinction.
in a trade, Minshew off the wire, and Kirko from the inaugural. So Robert, summary on your quarterback room.
Yeah, I don't know how much is left to say about Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. Those are two, guys I'm very comfortable with. Excited to have Patrick on the team this year, um, and hope they're both there for years to come. Mahomes is only nearing 30s. Justin Herbert, even though it seems like he's been around forever, is only 27. So productive guys with, I think, uh, especially with Herbert's case, where there's been questions the past couple of years about the supporting cast around him. Those aren't necessarily all answered. I think Cevan hinted about maybe a Keenan Allen reunion could be on the way given the state of that wide receiver room, but still feeling optimistic about the offense heading into year two with Jim Harbaugh. And then, Mahomes is Mahomes, plenty of playmakers around him. Excited to see those two guys in my lineup, hopefully just about every week this season. Just spoke about why Gardner Minshew is still around, hanging around the quarterback room, and then Kirk Cousins was certainly a draft pick last year, not a particularly good one for me in the inaugural, but um, had some offers last year toward the end of the year that were basically equivalent to just cutting him. So I've kept him around, hoping that a situation arises where another team is in need of a proven quarterback, and maybe Kirk gets an opportunity to start elsewhere, and I can move him or if slide him in on a bye week or something like that, or maybe I guess Savan maybe can speak more to this. Maybe Michael Penix and his small NFL sample size and large injury history to his name isn't going to be the guy that he hopes he is, and Kirk gets some more time in the starting lineup. So keeping him around, seeing get no use of cutting him or trading him for a 28 2028 fourth rounder, even though, loved acquiring one earlier today. So keeping around for now, seeing what happens, and um, sort of going from there with Kirk. But it feels good not to be the guy in the league who doesn't have, who only has one, relevant fantasy quarterback. Glad to have both Herbert and Mahomes on my team this year.
Fun question, because I think there's a lot to consider here. Rob, who do you think is more likely to start a game for you this year? Gardner Minshew or Kirk Cousins?
I guess I hope Kirk Cousins.
I was gonna say because if Gardner's starting, then Pat's hurt, and he's almost definitely in the lineup. But Kirk probably has a better chance to play, but would he obviously would not be playing over your two quarterbacks? Interesting question.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like I said, hopefully Kirk, but whether it's something with Penix and Kirk is pushed back into the starting lineup or getting traded to a QB needy team, I can realistically see a scenario this year where he's starting games for somebody, whereas, Gardner's obviously only going to be starting last week of the season or if something catastrophic happens. So let's hope with the Kirk scenario.
Tyler, what are your thoughts on the quarterback room?
Super duper good. I mean, it's not that profound of analysis there, but I mean,
Sometimes that's all you need.
yeah, just it's. I don't have anything else. I mean, yeah, we've talked about Herbert and Mahomes, and I don't really have anything to say about Minshew or Cousins.
Not just super good. There was a duper in there,
Super
which I really
duper.
Hmm.
appreciate.
Although I cringed after I said that, so
Read from you.
Super duper duper good room from me. I think it's the number three quarterback room in the league. Or at least the number three
yeah.
starting duo in the league. So yeah, what was once a weakness has now become a strength for him. And if you're going to be have a strength anywhere, quarterback is the place to have a strength.
Yeah, for me, it's a very good starting duo. Obviously, QB3 is a lot to be desired. Potential of Kirk, more likely to be on another team. We see it every year where there's an injury right before the deadline and the best available backup QB gets shipped off. So it would be funny if McCarthy got injured and the Vikings traded for Kirk. That'd be
I don't
something.
think they would do that.
I don't think they would either, but it would be funny. Um, but yeah, having a couple of fringe QB1s, high-end QB2s
Oh my God.
is
Chill,
better
man.
Come
than
on, dude.
I'm looking
Spoken
at
from
this.
the king of
I'm
QB2s.
I'm looking at the points per game, and they're not QB1s. So
Talk about a hater.
you love points per game. So if we're going off that, neither of
Yeah,
them
I
were
do. I also
QB1s.
love caring more about what they're going to do and not what they have done
Yeah,
exclusively.
both guys could easily go for 4,540 this year. Will they? Only time will tell. This could be I don't think it could be the best duo in the
So
league,
so
but
when someone asks you
unanimous.
this, like, is like, oh, I'm new to fantasy football. What is Patrick Mahomes? And you were gonna say a fringe QB2
No, I did not say that.
or a
Fringe
fringe
QB1,
QB1?
high end QB2 is what he said, I believe.
Yeah, is
We
that
haven't
not
had
what he
nearly
is?
enough Michael Penix, Patrick Mahomes jokes this episode.
I feel like I'm the only one trying to set up for something. So if you guys are trying to make jabs, you need to work a little harder.
Well, it's not nearly as fun when Cevan's not getting upset about it. So he's really ruining the experience here.
Hey, you guys say whatever you want, and I'll say whatever I want. All right, let's get on to the running backs. Nope, let's not do that. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. Over under 1.5 top 10 quarterbacks. A feat that, no, sorry, Mahomes was QB8 in 2023. Herbert has not been top 10 in 4 seasons. So
Mahomes had a QB1 finish, like QB
Probably
one
two.
one.
I said in the last 2 years.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, no, I'm saying 1.5
Well,
for this. So,
considering he has two fringe QB1s, probably high end QB2s, I'll say under just from that analysis.
I'm gonna go, as I should because it's my team. I'm gonna go over. I think Mahomes, his fantasy production last year, um, doesn't quite mesh with what he's done the rest of his career, and I think he's gonna get back more to that QB, if not QB 1, 2 range where he's been before, more of that QB 4 to 8-ish range. So I'm pretty comfortable saying he's gonna rebound and solidify himself again to, where Cevan will be comfortable enough to call him a QB1. And I think Herbert, like I said earlier, at the start of his career, based on our league scoring settings, PPR QB9 his rookie year, then 2 the following year, and he's been 11, 17, although he only played 13 games that year, and then 12 last year. So um, not horrible with 11 and 12, but certainly not that high end QB1 type of quarterback you're looking for in fantasy. But I think it's gonna be a rebound this year, and that he and Ladd are just gonna do amazing things out on the field and in my starting lineup.
Tyler, what's your thought?
I'm taking the over.
Both of them inside the top 10?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Yeah, I think this is more of a, if I had to bet on one, it would be Mahomes. This is more of a question about if Herbert can get back inside the top 10. So uh, I'll take the under.
I seriously would actually take the under. Like I was making fun of Savant's comment, but I also will take the, obviously it's very close, but I will take the under myself as well.
That's why I specifically didn't do top 12 because
Those two spots make a big difference.
yeah, it
Yeah,
really
top 12
does.
too seems too easy to just say yes. So
Even though neither of them would have been in last year, but this isn't last year. Let's move
Fringy.
on. All right, let's get into the running back. So, lengthy list. We got Brees Hall acquired this offseason. Bucky, we talked about in the inaugural. Blake Corum, the hopeless wonder, drafted before Bucky, which is actually crazy. Um, Jarquez Hunter that we all kind of wanted. Jalen Warren, Kyle Monangai, and Tony Pollard. So, Rob, why don't you talk about your running backs?
yeah, we've talked about a lot of these guys already. Obviously, very comfortable and excited for both Brees and Bucky, and feel great about them as a starting running back duo. And I think, you know, even more than receiver, just out of pure depth, because on a given week, I really prefer to only play two running backs. So to have the rest of these guys on my bench, I feel really good about the depth there. We've talked about Jalen Warren and how I feel about him. We've talked about Tony Pollard and how, you know, even you guys feel even better about him than I do. So if on a bye week or whatever situation may arise where I need to slide someone else into a running back spot or a flex spot or whatever, I feel very comfortable about both Warren and Pollard. And then I think I mentioned this at the top of the conversation. I think it's very interesting. I didn't necessarily think about it this way, picking Hunter in the third round of our rookie draft, but I like the idea of having both Hunter and Corum and having that sort of Rams backfield handcuff behind Williams and whoever is the starting running back in a Sean McVay offense is typically pretty productive. So if one of those carves out a role, or if Williams gets hurt, or whatever situation may arise, feel really good about that. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think Hunter was my first. Uh,
Yeah, because you traded back from the 302.
right, the
Uh,
303,
And back
right?
from the 109, notoriously.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Actually,
So
back
traded
from the
back.
10, the 103 back to the 109, and then the 109 back to nothing.
Yeah, so I think the only players I actually drafted this year were Hunter, and then, as we'll see in a minute, Jalen Royals. And I felt really good despite not having a high pick or deciding to trade my high picks this year about who I got in the rookie draft, particularly with Hunter for the reasons I just mentioned. And then getting Kyle as a waiver wire guy, you know, Swift is the obvious favorite in the Bears backfield, and there's Roshan Johnson there as well. But I think he certainly, it's not like anyone has a lock on all those snaps, and very productive college career who I think, could prove to be I don't know if you want to call it a steal, but getting him in the seventh round after I know a lot of Bears fans were hoping they were going to take a running back all weekend. I think he could be get a lot of value there, both for the Bears and from a fantasy perspective. I don't know, Cevan, did you also try to bid on Kyle when he hit the waiver wire?
I
I know
did.
someone else did. Yeah,
I
so
did.
so excited to see him, excited about this room. I feel good both about the top end talent with Brees and Bucky and some of the depth pieces that I have there if I should need that depth. And in Hunter's case and Kyle's case, some perspective for the future. So yeah, feel pretty good about this room. Certainly a lot better shape than it was in last year.
If I could say something real quick, I don't know about you guys, but hearing Kyron referred to as Williams just sounded so weird to me because, like, when I talk about him, I almost exclusively just say Kyron because Williams could be anybody. It just felt really weird. Did anybody else feel that?
Yeah,
I didn't feel it.
there's several players like that. I
I think
relate to
it
that.
for me it's because I always bounce between Kyron and Kieran and never just settle on one, so try to avoid that mistake.
Yeah, like I mean, again, like nobody's like, oh yeah, Irving in the backfield for the Bucks. You're like, no, it's Bucky back there.
Yeah.
Is
Or
it?
Jameer.
Yeah, or like, oh, the Jets have Hall in the backfield this year. No, no, Brees is back there. I don't know. It was just weird to hear him referred to exclusively as Williams. I didn't know if anyone else felt that, but
Tyler, I heard you just were you just referring to Jahmyr Gibbs as Jameer?
Yeah.
I don't think I've only referred to him as Gibbs.
All
oh
right,
boy,
then maybe that's just
you are
me.
talking to Chief Jameer Gibbs fan club over there. So,
Okay.
Yeah, don't ever refer to him as it's only Ja or Gibbs.
oh boy, that's some aura right there.
Anyways, I'll touch on the backs real quick. I think it's super underrated to have Corum and Jarquez. Obviously, Kyron's been pretty healthy over his career, but in the event that he does miss an extensive period of time, it'll be nice to just get the auto de facto. Don't even know if that's how you, whatever that is. Um, RB1 for that team. And then another guy, he's with Ben Johnson, handpicked.
Stop.
DeAndre Swift got pushed out with when Ben was there his first year in Detroit for Jamal Williams. And so I'm calling a Kyle Monangai Jamal Williams comp going for 20 tugs this season. Um, and Roshan. So no, but I just wanted to talk about Jarquez and Corum. Super underrated. Reed, any thoughts on the backs?
Yeah, I think like I feel like with a lot of the position groups, there's just kind of a consensus like top room across the league. I don't really feel like there is that at running back, and I think this is a room that kind of has an underrated case for that. Like you have two guys who can very easily finish in the top eight or higher at their position. You have a bona fide NFL starter that performed very well last year in Pollard. You have, more of a part-time back, but someone that has a chance to, carve out a role in Jalen Warren. You have a couple of handcuffs to a really good offense, and then, a flyer. Like I think this is one that has an underrated case to be one of the top rooms in the league, and a room I'd be proud to have.
Tyler,
Yeah.
you want to touch on these backs?
I agree with pretty much everything Reed said. I love the way it's constructed. I'll also add that everyone knows that Blake Corum is Mr. What If at running back. If last year Kyron got hurt and Blake Corum got lots of touches last year, he probably would have went off. So he's a lot like Justin Herbert in that way. He's just kind of known as Mr. What If.
I think the difference between Blake and Jalen is like good at football and Blake's bad. And
Yeah,
I know you were making a joke there, but Blake Corum's like actually not good at football.
I was just showing you how easy it is that you can call a
No, I
running
know.
back Mr.
That's
What If.
that's why I said I know you're making a joke,
Okay.
but Blake Corum's actually not good at football.
Okay.
Hence why they got Jarquez, Wise, Hunter. All right, running back question. Now remember, I'll go back to the list, but it's another what? Yeah, over
Over.
under 1.5 top 12 running backs. Now neither Bucky nor Brees were this last year, um, but could be this year.
Over.
Over.
I'm
Obviously, Bucky and Brees.
Boo.
I'll take the under two. It's too volatile. You always have like 3 to 4 random guys getting in the
Yep.
top 12 every year, and outside of the top, like you have the Barkleys, the Gibbs, the
The Jameers.
Bichons. Yeah, outside of the Jameers. Um, there's usually at least a third, if not, sorry, at least a quarter, if not a third of the top 12 is just randoms. So I'll take the under.
Randoms. They're randoms.
Dude, yes.
It's a random who's like not even good at football like Blake Corum, right, Cevan?
Exactly. Like Jamal Williams.
But no,
Um,
if we're talking,
Wait. Before we move on, I want to name the top 12 running backs last year and see which how many of them are random, okay?
oh, by random, I
what
mean you don't see before the season them being a top 12 back.
Okay. Well, let's just see how
Okay.
many of those there were, okay?
Yep.
Saquon,
I know him.
Jameer, Bijan, Derrick Henry,
Bashan.
Bijan, Alvin Kamara, Achan, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, Kyron, James Cook, and then notably Kenneth Walker III. I think the
Um,
most random one out of that group would be Joe Mixon because
I
he
was
was
gonna say
just
James
down on the
Cook.
team. Okay, that works too. One of those two. Okay, well, either way, you have two that are debatably not expected to be there.
What about what about I know okay, I guess I was gonna say what about Achan just because Tyler's reaction, but I think his ADP was inside the top 12.
You drafted him at the top of the second round in our
I
redraft league.
know,
I
I
hope
know,
it wasn't random.
I know. I drafted him RB6 overall.
We've drilled down to the fact that all of your fantasy success is completely random.
It's not random.
I also just enjoy looking at this graphic that only in a running back room is someone who's 28 years old, clearly the old guy on the team positionally, whereas there's, a lot of youth in my room, but Tony Pollard's sticking around at 28 years old. Good for him.
Good locker
Good
room
for him.
presence to have.
He'd be the youngest running back on Tyler's team,
That's
Maybe the
okay.
youngest player on Tyler's team.
literally.
Okay.
Catching strays.
All right, getting into the receiver room, we got Jakobi, who we touched on, just acquired this afternoon. JSN, who was offered to me in the Mahomes trade. Um,
Oh, you want
Jettas,
more?
I did. Ladd,
Wow, that's bold.
D Devon Vele, Elijah Moore, Jalen Royals, Jordan Whittington, Kayshawn Booty, and the infamous Huge, Huge. Let's try and touch on a little more of the untalked about guys. If you there's nothing to really say about Justin Jefferson. Um, so yeah, Rob, take it away.
Oh yeah, I think the top end talent in this room was undeniable and something I felt really good about going even before I made the trade with Myers. Felt good about the main trio. Adding him provides me with some much needed depth. Still want more. Don't love some of the names that are below the top four, the starters on this list, but feel really good about those four. And then yeah, some of the guys we haven't talked about. I made the case for Vele being on the team. Who knows how long that's going to be the case. Uh, Kind of took a flyer on Elijah Moore, who's been a productive at times in the past, sporadically, and is still only 25 years old and going to a very wide receiver needy team. So if he can carve out a role with Josh Allen, I thought it was worth keeping him around for now. Really excited about Jalen Royals. He's going to what might be considered a crowded Chiefs receiver room with Rice and Worthy and some of the other guys there. But I think he's someone who, if he does carve out a role, it's great to have him with Mahomes on my team. And, um, with the Rice suspension looming, and who knows how long that's going to be, and if he has an opportunity to, make a name for himself in that amount of time, or just even with Rice, because I think it'll be interesting to see how they balance those. Those young skill players, and Reed might be able to speak better that to that than I can. I think I may have seen something. I don't know if everyone was available, but I think Royals was getting first team reps at some point recently. So that was,
Hmm.
um, you
He
know,
has been filtering with the ones, and he seems like he's performed pretty well so far.
so optimistic about that. And if he's another playable option, makes me feel a whole lot better about what I think is already a pretty good wide receiver room. Not much to say about, Winningham and Kayshawn, filling out the team, still both young. Um, Obviously Winningham in a very, as long as Matthew Stafford is healthy, a very pass friendly offense. And maybe Kayshawn will be a new best friend to Drake May in New England. And then there's Quentin Johnston, who, um, if he could just catch the ball, that'd be great. Would love that. Wide receiver 39 last year. That's a little misleading, I think, just because let me pull.
If you take out all the games he was good, he was basically never good. We get it.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out with his game logs because there were, wide receiver two or week two, he's wide receiver 11 with 22 points. And the last week of the season, he was wide receiver two again with 31 points. And, week nine, he's wide receiver 8 with 22 points. Basically, when they were spamming him with targets or when he had multi-touchdown games, he was, very obviously very productive. That didn't happen very often, clearly, and he's basically a meme at this point with dropping passes even in training camp. I know he's had some hot days this year in training camp. I know we're going to keep going with this Chargers theme of what if that Cevan has started a little bit. He's still only, just about 24. Um, for the time being, at least Mike Williams retiring creates a little bit of a hole in that Chargers receiver room where um, he has a little bit more room to, you know, save himself from being that bust label. So I'm interested to see just stock wise. Obviously, I have him on my bench, and he might have even made his way into the starting lineup for me a few times last year, largely unfortunately. But of anyone on my bench, still think he might have the highest upside, and I know that's a loaded word, but um, interested to see if it's this year with the Chargers or um, if some other team is where he's finally going to break out if that ever happens. I don't know. Breakout's too strong of a word. I still have a little bit of Quentin Johnson stock, but it's dwindling.
Yeah, real
Honestly,
quick for
a first round NFL draft pick wide receiver going in the 15th round the next year is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I was so willing to take a shot on him. Like I said, he's basically become a meme, and despite some flashes from time to time of being productive, or the Chargers not just not having that many wide receivers, so getting spammed with targets that they might, in a better case scenario, hope would be going elsewhere, has shown flashes. But
The
yeah,
the
still,
meme aspect of him absolutely affected how much people want to draft him.
oh, definitely. I don't even think that's a joke. I think the drop thing has firmly latched its way onto him to the point where even where he, like I said, for a few games was productive last year, it can't quite overcome the drop compilations and all that.
Like even if he does become a productive wide receiver, that will literally never leave his like persona. Like the national talking heads who don't actually watch football will constantly refer to him as that. Even if he becomes a 1,000 yard receiver this year, the next offseason they'll still be talking about whether the drops are going to come back. And it's just like so ingrained into what people think of him. I'm not saying it's not true, but like it's just it's crazy to see how much people hate on him, whether that be in the form of just like joking or memes or just like hating on him, I guess. I don't know. It's weird how much people love to trash him.
yeah, he already had the former first round wide receiver label during his rookie year.
Yeah,
So that's
not a good
never
label
good.
to have.
But I'll touch on the receivers real quick. Outside of the top guys, I was really in on Jalen Royals. Uh, he went two picks before my 405. As soon as Robert picked him, I messaged him if I could trade for him. He said no, so that was sad. Um, and then Kayshon Boutte is also interesting. He was outside of Hunter Henry, he was the most productive pass catcher last year. He was I don't know why I know this much about Kayshon Boutte, but he was a five-star receiver at LSU. Um, not last year's class when he was drafted, but the going into the 2023 college season, he was projected to be uh, a top 10 pick going into before the college season started, and then uh, had a really down junior year, so he went back for his senior year. Ended up being, I believe, a fifth round pick. Uh, I might be lying. I think
Also,
last year was his second year.
how is Kayshon Boutte more productive than Pop Douglas?
Last year,
Yeah,
I think he had like 500 yards. No,
pretty.
Pickles should really have these stats just at the ready, so she could fact check you if need be.
Pickles is okay. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Kayshawn
Do we really need to get a Kayshon Boutte versus Pop Douglas comparison right now?
Kayshawn had 43 for 600, and Pop.
No, okay. Pop
Oh,
had
Pop
more
Pop had way
yards.
more.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
he had way more receptions. about the same
PPR
yards,
scammer.
same touchdown. So, moral of the story, they were pretty similar. Um, and in a crapshoot of nothing, Kayshawn kind of rose to the top ahead of guys like Jalen Polk, who was the 34th overall pick, which is insane that he's not going to make the team, and Javon Baker. Um, he's interesting. That's all I'll say. Elijah Moore, nothing. Vele, nothing. QJ, nothing. And Whittington was super fun last year. I'm I'm glad I drafted him. It sucks I had to drop him, but I don't I'm not much of a Tutu guy. I know they gave him 10 mil. Obviously they have Puka and Devontae, but if anything happens to Puka or Devontae, which Puka gets hurt every year, and Devontae is 32, I think Jordan Whittington would be the receiver to have. So he's probably just a hold for me, but overall the room's very top heavy and the guys at the top are very heavy. So,
Uh,
Reed, Tyler,
I just have one thing to say, and my thoughts on the receiver room is besides the top four there, there's a real chance that the rest of the guys on the bench there are not on Rob's team next year on the waivers or have been dropped and then picked up consequentially by someone else. I mean, Royals probably has the best chance in my mind to still be on Rob's
Well, he'll
team,
be on the
but
taxi squad, so I'd assume he makes it
yes,
most of the
yes.
year on his team.
Well, I
Uh,
think it speaks to how I feel about Royals and the potential there. And again, partially because you have Mahomes and would love to have a connection like that. But when Tyler and I were talking about that Myers trade, one of the proposals, or I guess I basically had a choice is the draft compensation that I gave him or a little bit less draft compensation, but throwing Royals in the mix. And I
mhm.
went with the offer. Obviously, that was agreed upon. So feel very good about Royals and excited to, have him on the taxi squad for the time being and see if he can carve out a role in that offense.
I'm doubtful he'll be able to carve out a role this year, but we'll see next year with Hollywood potentially gone. Even if Rasheed is suspended, I'd be really hard pressed to see him in a role that like solidifies him past Rasheed's return, sans an injury. But who knows?
you,
Andy Reid can work miracles sometimes.
I'll be to me, Jalen Royals is like it's literally like a carbon copy of Rasheed Rice, like stylistically. So in 2026, when Kelsey retires, if they just replace old Kelsey with new Jalen Royals, and you still have Rice and Worthy, oh, that would be
I don't think
So
that's
which
how
one
that
of the two is
works.
playing tight end?
Jalen.
Jalen Rose is like 5'9".
It doesn't matter. Okay, Jared Wiley can play tight end at that point.
Rip. Long live Jared Wiley on the Monkas.
All right, we
Got a
will
ring
come
though.
back. Ooh, he did. He definitely did. Uh, we'll be back at this page in one moment. Over under 2.5 top 15 wide receivers. Um, just going off last year, 3 out of the 4 players would have got here based on total points, only one on points per game. And so I guess depending, we'll go off points per game because that's Reed's favorite. Um, over under, I forgot what it was. 2.5.
I'm gonna
I
say
have
under. Go ahead, Rob.
I was just gonna say I have a hot take somewhat related to this that I think will display my feelings on the topic. So I'll wait until we get to that point.
I bet he predicts his players to be really bad.
I'm gonna
Um,
I'm gonna say under pretty
I'll s-
easily, I think.
okay. I'll say under as well. Obviously, I think we all can agree, barring injury, Justin Jefferson will do this. Um, if you had to bet for one more to get in, would you bet JSN or Lad?
Lad,
Lad.
Ladarius.
Lad. All right, and finally, let's get on to the tight ends. So we have Evan Ingram, Michael Mayer, Aronde Gadsden, and Pat Fryermuth. So Rob, just walk us through the tight end room.
All right, so we know how I feel about Evan Ingram. Love having him hopefully back to form from a few years ago this year, and feel really good about him in my tight end starting spot. Oh, we jumping straight ahead, or um,
No, sorry.
but yeah, to sneak peek of what may be coming on the next slide. I feel really good about him being a top 10 or so tight end this season. So feel really good there. As to the guys on my bench, tough offseason for Pat Freiermuth. I think he was, in my mind, the very top end of the tight end two list, if that makes sense. I think he was a very dependable option on my bench who, depending on his chemistry with Aaron Rodgers could have been an interesting fantasy play this year before they decided to acquire Jonnu Smith. And on the Jonnu Smith front, when there were rumors of or reports or whatever of Michael Mayer potentially going to Miami, I was thrilled because I have a lot of faith in this player, just not on his particular team at the moment because of Brock Bowers, and it's just going to be tough to have any sort of consequential fantasy role behind a tight end like that. So I feel really good about all these three players, the veterans with Ingram, Freiermuth, and Meyer. Just the last two wish they were in a little bit better of a position or that some things this offseason had gone a little bit differently. So if for whatever reason I can't start Ingram, have to hope Freiermuth has a better game than Jonnu Smith and see how that dynamic plays out this season or look for other options, I guess. And then Aronde, I guess that was another just sort of dart throw that who's on my taxi squad right now. Um, Certainly a part of that was, you know, don't mind having as many Chargers pass catchers on my team right now uh, with Justin Herbert on my team as well, and he was a fairly productive uh, college player at Syracuse, I believe. And I think he was a former wide receiver who converted to tight end. So again, there's tight end isn't exactly a super competitive spot, I guess, if you will, for the Chargers. They do have Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly, but those aren't necessarily guys who it's going to be impossible to pass on the depth chart. So maybe competitive isn't the right word, but it's not a top heavy one, I guess, if you will. So feel pretty good about my tight ends. I'd say it's pretty comfortably my weakest position group, even though I have a lot of high hopes for Ingram this year. There's just not the depth there that maybe I thought there would be this offseason because Freiermuth's value has been impacted and Myers hasn't changed. So here's hoping Evan Ingram is stays healthy and has this type of season that I think he's going to.
Yeah, it's super dependent, in my opinion, on Evan Ingram. Uh, Last year he was injury riddled. Hopefully, all that's gone. If he stays healthy, he's got to be in your lineup at all times. If he's not, things could get grim. I wouldn't want to be relying on Pat Freiermuth after the Jonnu trade. Like I agree with what you were saying going into what we thought was going to be this season. I think he would have been a perfectly fine candidate to be at the back of uh, the top 12 or just right there, just outside. But yeah, Evan Ingram set up for success as long as he stays healthy. Tyler?
Yeah, don't have much to add with Ingram there. I really like Gadsden and his shot in Los Angeles. He was someone I was looking at late in the rookie draft there. Or I'm sorry, not in the rookie draft, in the waiver process. So good get by Rob there. I don't have too much else to add that hasn't been said.
And Reed.
I got nothing.
Awesome. All right, getting into the tight end question. Does Evan Ingram finish inside of the top 12?
Oh yeah, for reasons I think I've stated already. Fairly confident about a rebound season for Evan Ingram that will have him comfortably inside that top 12 as a return to form as a tight end one this offseason or this season.
I personally just think it's dependent on if he plays enough games. If he plays enough games, I think it'll be pretty easy. Um, if he doesn't, then obviously not.
I'll say he does.
Reed, anything from you?
I'm counting Reed's silence as a point in my favor, so I think that's all that needs to be said on that front.
All right. Hot takes. Robert, Justin Jefferson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Ladd are the top scoring wide receiver trio in the league. Robert, talk us through this one.
Yeah, like we were talking about at the top when we're talking about my team or when we're looking at the wide receiver room specifically, very top heavy wide receiver room, very talented wide receiver room. And these are three guys I really believe in going into this season. Justin Jefferson needs no explanation as to why he's at worst a top two wide receiver in the league, and I think is going to continue to be that elite fantasy and actual football player that we've seen in the past. So no, basically no need to say anymore. Lad, I think that connection with Herbert is only going to grow after a PPR 13 finish last year. There's, I don't think the Chargers receiver room is quite where they want it, but they did bring in Trey Harris, and I think if anything, having some more targets like that in the Chargers offense is only going to be beneficial for Ladd and taking a little heat off of him underneath or wherever he is on the field, so Herbert can find him. And JSN, we've mentioned again, he's they did have Cooper Kupp, and they are good at some of the same things, but I think he's without a doubt the best option, the best weapon offensively that the Seahawks have. And I think it's just safe to say that I have big expectations from all these three guys. These are all guys who are coming off very productive um, fantasy years, and I think they're going to continue that this year to the point that it's going to be tough to match these three as a trio around the league.
I think I think the spice level is up on this one because I think there's at least two guys on this podcast that will easily compete with you in being Terry, Devontae, and DJ, and Chase, London, and Wilson.
None of your
But
guys, Cevan?
I said at least.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so I think the spice level is up on this one. Tyler, what are your thoughts on it?
I'll save my thoughts for my hot take.
Okay. Reader, are you here? Are you
Yes, I
with
am
us?
back. Sorry, my brother called me, so I had to pick that up because he doesn't usually call me out of the blue. He just
You're
he
good.
he asked me a question about Super Skate in Cedar Rapids, so it wasn't an urgent call.
The
Um,
K is still in parts.
that was the discussion, was asking if we had been there and if it was still, or when the last time I was there and if it was still functioning, and I said, unfortunately, I think it is still functioning. So
Yes, it does.
uh yeah, no, I don't have any problem with the take here. I I didn't hear what you guys were saying, but this is a really damn good trio, probably top two or three in the league at the very lowest three. So I'd have no problem with this. I don't know what the spice level is because I think they're all really damn good and they could all finish in the top 12. So
Um, just to refresh, I said the spice level is up because of your trio of
oh,
Chase, London,
I
and
appreciate the
Wilson,
glaze.
and Tyler's trio of DJ, Devontae, and Terry.
That's not even close to this true. Not even in the same discussion. So I mean,
I
no
All right.
see.
offense, Tyler,
See,
but
when Cevan started saying that and he mentioned Tyler's trio first, I thought he was just going to exclusively say Tyler's trio and his own trio as sort of a joke to get a reaction out of you, but then he excluded himself and brought up Tyler's, which was a surprise to me.
yeah, I got no problem with the take. I don't know how what I will put the spice level at, but I could definitely see this happening.
I am humble monkas.
That has
I
never ever been the case. Not even for not even in your first year when you won one game where you humble monkas.
The hunkas.
Rob, I will say I do like how your trio included a dark skin, a light skin, and a white male.
Diversity.
I do like. Yes, I love it. All right, getting into my hot take now. I just want to preface this,
Oh,
Rob, because you haven't seen it. I don't know if you have, Tyler, but uh, this is a little bit of a shit talk, they might say. So let's get into it. Nobody on Robert's team will finish inside the top 12 in their respective positions. So that means both, obviously, all
I think
your
it's pretty
quarterbacks,
clear what
running
it
backs.
means.
Yes, nobody will be a position one. Obviously, you have good guys, right? This includes Justin Jefferson.
yeah, I was going to say a couple slides ago, you were like, it's kind of a given that Justin Jefferson's going to be in the top 12, and
Yes,
here we are.
hot take. So all it takes is,
All
and
it
this
takes
kind
is
of,
like 6 injuries and you're good, man.
well, we've seen it before from Justin Jefferson. Obviously, the 1 year was an outlier. He played 10 games. I'm in on JJ McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell, but there always is that chance. This is a hot take. There is that chance that McCarthy's ass, which if I at least the Twitter I've seen is JJ McCarthy has not had a good camp. Um, but yeah, uh, I think the spice level's up on this one.
I think you could
Um,
argue this would be one of the least likely hot takes that we've ever had.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is just in terms of probability of happening, where even if I'm terrible this year, you figure at least one of the guys we've
yeah,
often raved about is going to have a at least a top 12 season. So
Like
this is certainly a hot take.
like I think again, kind of the bar right now is comparing to Trent's take that Stafford and JJ McCarthy finished as top 7 quarterbacks. Obviously Stafford's injury notwithstanding, but like I don't know which one I would think is less likely.
I would say Trent's less likely.
Well, yeah, you
If
just
I
gave
know
this take. I hope so.
if we remove Justin Jefferson out of the
If you take
equation,
Oh,
away
we
his best
can. It's
players,
nobody.
he
So
I
has no
understand.
good players.
I'm just saying if you take out Justin Jefferson, could you see it? Could you see a path? Because
No,
we just saw it with the quarterbacks, right?
no.
We just saw it with all the receivers except for Justin Jefferson. We just saw it with all the running backs, and we just saw it except for no, yeah, even Bucky, and we just saw it with Evan Ingram. So this literally would have happened last year if you took out Justin Jefferson. So let's just say Justin Jefferson has a bad year, like or it gets. I'm not wishing injury, but he got injured once. If that happened next year, this literally would have happened. So now that you understand it from that perspective, does that make you reconsider
It puts it
what
ahead of Trent's take, but not much higher.
What was JSN? What did he finish? Just
19
overall finish last year? Or are you doing points per
or no,
game?
points per game 19? So
So
that's
then
kind of where I
even if you're saying Justin Jefferson only plays 10 games, if we're going per game, I'm sure he's going to be productive
Ho
in those
ho,
10 or
got
whatever
your ass,
games.
man.
I understand Justin Jefferson was the only one on your team who completed this feat. And so that's what gave me the inspiration was that it literally happened minus Justin Jefferson. And I know you can't just take out arguably the best player in the NFL, but
That's
now
that's a
that
hot take.
I know, but now that I laid all
I'm
that out
agreeing
for
with
you,
you.
no, I know, I'm saying now that I laid it all out and that it literally happened, can you see it anymore?
Hey, Cevan,
Nope.
do you want to put a power rate on this one?
No.
I, I can see the vision and the validity of this as a hot take.
Thank you.
I can see it, and I I can
Robert,
see
you
what
were
you're
one
saying, but
player away from it happening. One player away.
And that was also like a worst case scenario season for him.
yeah,
Like
I'd say
how much more could go wrong?
yeah, I don't know. I can see it, but I obviously because it's a hot take, it seems very unlikely.
Oh,
But
also, wait, real quick. I would disagree with what you just said, Reed, because one was one game out from being 500 while being one of the lowest scorers in the league. So how
Correct.
was that? So how was that bad luck that you win your low scoring matchups?
Because all of the running backs he drafted minus Bucky were terrible. Kirk got benched and was bad. I don't even
I
remember
like the
who he
spice
was.
level. I like it.
Oh, it's spicy, all right. I just think it's a little too spicy.
It's a good take, man. If I
Sure.
change this to all but Justin Jefferson, would it be better?
No, you would get executed on
well,
the spot for making a take like that.
All right, let's get on to Reed's, and I'm very excited for Tyler's. Reed's hot take. Rob makes the biggest jump in the league from his 2024 finish 10th to his 2025 finish.
This might
I'll
be kind
take
of a
it.
cop out because you have to be low to jump up, and then you're also excluding two teams because obviously the two reclamation teams don't are equal to whatever their team finished last year. But uh, I'll get into some more thoughts when we get to our season predictions. But yeah, I guess this is probably the least spicy take I've given because I think we all really like his team, sans Cevan. So
Off the top of your head, if we're on hot take land, do you have a biggest faller in mind?
Either the two teams that we have 11th and 12th in the power rankings who got second and third last year.
It has to be them.
Yeah,
They
I mean,
literally are consensus bottom
yeah,
three.
they were second and third in the league last year, and now we all have them as 11 or 12 in the power rankings. So,
I think Trent is Rob's real competition for this hot take, would you say?
well, I mean, James finished last and Shams
Okay,
finished
you
just ahead
can't
of him or
count
11th.
those. You
So that's what
can't
I'm
count those.
saying. Everybody below Rob is,
Sumner.
oh, you're right. Okay, yeah.
Logistically, like who would be the competition for
Sumner would be
this?
his biggest
Sumner.
competition because
Yeah.
he got 11th last year. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Or
those are
if,
both good ones. And I'm in on both their teams this year. So,
yeah.
again, awesome league because we have 12 teams that legitimately can be good. Despite finishing 10th and 11th last year, we see them as some of us see them as real contenders this year. So,
Yeah. All right. Now this, I like this one. Reed, did you see Tyler's?
I saw it, but I don't remember it.
Okay, Rob, you're gonna fucking hate this one.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
All right.
Wait, Cevan only likes this one because it makes him feel justified
No, no,
in
no,
his
no. Because
previous
I don't. No,
decisions.
no, no. Because I don't feel the same. And this is your unbiased
Bring it
feeling.
on.
Tyler's hot take. Lad McConkey will finish wide receiver 24 or worse. Talk us through it.
Okay, so for a little context here, right now, Lad McConkey is going as the 11th wide receiver off the board, and last year he finished as wide receiver 13. I'll also add in that there's most definitely personal bias with this. I've never been in on McConkey. I didn't like him coming out of college as much, and I didn't draft him last year, and I'm still not the most in on him this year. But I guess looking at the Chargers offense, they added two new key rookies in Trey Harris and Hampton. And this is Greg Roman's offense, which has been notoriously run heavy. I think now that they got to pick their running backs that they want there in Najee and Amarian, that will eat into the targets that Lad gets. I know I said that Justin Herbert's a sleeper. I still think he is, but I think overall McConkey will see fewer targets and thus fewer receptions. Receptions were the biggest way that McConkey what finished where he did last year. His 82 receptions ranked 15th in for receivers, and that was on 110 targets, which ranked 23rd. So, um, I any sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I don't think he will see as many targets or as many receptions this year, leading to a dip. 7 touchdowns for receivers, also pretty solid. And I'm not saying take away his good games or anything like that. I'm just saying if he catches a few less touchdowns, few less receptions, and a little bit less yardage, I think 24 wide receiver finish or worse is definitely in the cards for McConkey. As much as it pains me to be a hater on here, Svan told me I need to come up with some meaner hot takes. So sorry, Rob, you're the recipient of that here.
Tyler, just out of curiosity, do you have more stock in Marvin Harrison going into the season than you do Lad? I'm just asking because obviously that was a
Yeah,
piece of the trade with Cevan.
I do personally. I still am a big believer in the upside with Marv, and I guess that's also a little bit biased though because I have Kyler Murray and really like him.
Yeah, I, I want to touch on this real quick because I never really got to get closure with Lad, right? This so
What?
Pickles
What did you need to
Pickles
say
just
to him?
well she just Pickles just texted me and she saw Lad pop up on the screen because I'm live streaming it downstairs. Um she kind of wants me to touch on everything Lad real quick. Um so with Lad, uh I am under more of the belief that we saw what like I don't know if I think that was his ceiling, but um
I
I
think it
think
was.
I think it was closer to his ceiling than like I don't know how much more he can go, especially in
Right.
this offense. So Tyler mentioned Greg Roman, and if you want to go back all the way to the 49ers days when they had Kaepernick and Frank Gore, under a Greg Roman led offense, there has never been a RB1 and a wide receiver one in the same season ever. Going back to 49ers, going back to the Ravens, and obviously they just spent a first round pick on Amari and Hampton. They brought in Najee, so they're and they're investing more into the offensive line. So they're telling us what they want to do, and that's keep the ball on the ground, uh, and let Justin throw when he needs to win games. Obviously, that's not going to be the whole story. Ladd's the obvious number one. He's going to be the number one target earner. Um, I just personally think there's not much more to go. And if you want to connect this back to the trade, sure. Just the prospect Marvin was, if we're comparing the two, what he showed, I think it's going to be a similar like pass to the Cardinals run the ball a shit ton too, and they have a better pass catcher than anything the Chargers have with McBride. So even if Marvin's the number two target earner, I just think there's more uh, ceiling if we're comparing the two. But I'm not under the impression he's gonna fall that far. Uh, I just would probably personally rank him more as a mid to low wide receiver two. I know 24 is a low wide receiver two, but um, yeah, those are my thoughts. Reed, I'm curious your thoughts.
I think saying the Chargers want to run the ball and not let Justin Herbert throw the ball is quite a take. I understand the Greg Roman aspect of it, but Justin Herbert literally has one of the best arms in NFL history. So saying that they drafted a running back in the first round to make sure he only throws the ball when they need to win games is a
I did
lot.
not say that, to be
No,
clear.
Cevan said that.
And then I immediately said, obviously that's not you,
So you said something
sure,
and then said you didn't mean what you said.
sure. Yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
well that I think that was a bad take. I think as long as we're talking points per game, again, I think we're all in agreement this would be very surprising. Could it happen? Sure. It's in the range of outcomes for it to happen, but I'd be very surprised if this happened. I think that Lad kind of gets discounted because of again, like there's just very little target competition last year, so people think he's a product of that, and then a couple of spike games. Like I think Lad's actually a good receiver. I don't I would absolutely take him over Marv in 2025. I just don't see that role, like the role that he plays in the Chargers offense and how they utilize him is so much different than the way that Marv gets utilized in the Cardinals offense. So I think the role is better. I think the player is just as talented, and obviously his quarterback play is infinitely better with Herbert from a purely a passing perspective than is with Kyler Murray. So not a fan of the take as far as what I think will happen. I am a fan of the spice level of the take.
I disagree with you saying he's discounted when his
Well,
redraft AD.
not discounted, but I think that a lot of people credit what he did last year, at least in large part, not solely, like not saying that he can't perform that way with better target competition, but like when you drafted him last year, one of the texts you sent me was, "Who else is Herbert going to throw the ball to?"
Literally though.
So
Obviously that was a piece in it. They had nobody else.
yes, so that's my point is that I think he's a good enough player that even if they add competent target competition around him, that not only will he be the best player of the bunch that they have right now, but Herbert is also an incredibly good quarterback, and that they will continue to throw the ball at a rate that is good enough, that is commensurate with his talent throwing the football.
Would you draft him as your wide receiver one in a redraft league?
I mean, again, it depends on the build, but I wouldn't blink an eye if I had if he was either a late second or an early third round pick, I'd have no problem with that as my wide receiver one.
Tyler and
I think he's
Cevan.
mid two. What? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I don't think you guys are accounting for all the extra targets that may come his way after they bounce off Quentin Johnston's hands, and that could really propel him up to
Uh,
receiver one status.
Seems like
That
you're picking
see
favorites among your children, Rob, because Quentin Johnston's also on your team. I don't think it's fair for you to pick favorites.
Hey, it's
They're
tough.
all your
It's the only way
children.
they're gonna get better.
this is an anti-lat. Okay, well, Reed, you never answered the ceiling part. Do you think how much more do you think he can really improve on last year?
I mean, I'm not saying that I think his ceiling is that much higher than it was last. I mean, he was really, really good last year, but I
Yes.
also think that his floor outside of injury is a lot higher than you guys are giving him credit for.
I think Savant's treating Lad like an ex-girlfriend, like he
No,
enjoyed his time
I'm
with
not
him, and,
surprised.
and now it's like he dumped him and he's talking shit.
Just like Mahomes
I,
is a fringe QB1 or QB2. I mean, same thing.
it's what he is.
I can't
I can
imagine. I could not have imagined going into this that Lad would get him more worked up than Pat would.
I'm not worked up. I'm saying my thoughts. I mean, 82 for 1150 and 7 as a rookie with literally nobody else. Nobody else. They're both their running backs got hurt. I genuinely think if Gus would have been competent and JK didn't get hurt, Lad would have he would have had a great year. I do think he's a great receiver. Like if you look at his reception perception, he's elite in literally all metrics. Um, it's really just the offense and the lack of competence around him last year.
So you remember when I
Um,
literally just said that I think he gets discounted because of the target competition he had last year, and you're like, no, I don't think that's the case. And I was like, oh,
no, I didn't say. I said I was talking. I thought you meant he's a discounted price.
no, 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 discount like what he did
Yes,
last
no, I
year.
get it now, but that's
Yes.
not what I was talking about.
Okay. Whatever you say. We need to
Yeah,
move
I
on
just
here. It's too much
well,
Lad McConkey discourse.
just one last thing because it's one of my I don't know about pet peeves. One of my things, and I don't have data or anything prepared for this, but I think we are very quick to overreact about a player and their value just because there are other people on the offense who will from time to time touch the football or not touch the football. Just because the Chargers have a running game, a good running game this year, if either the running backs they acquired pay off or their offensive line is better, whatever the case may be, does not mean they're going to forget that the passing game is part of their offensive playbook, or just because Trey Harris becomes a reliable option for Herbert that he hasn't had in the past doesn't mean that suddenly nothing's going to go Lad's way. If anything, it could take heat off of him. It could become, I think complementary football is overused a little bit, talking about the running game and the pass game, but I think it is true and could even open up Greg Roman's offense a little bit more if the running game is more how they want it. So I just don't think that if they have a healthy running back room this year, or if they have a little bit more target competition, that it's going to totally take away from what Ladd has done last year or is capable of doing this year.
Man
Yeah,
of
no,
culture.
Lad's obviously the number one. It's just if we're comparing Herbert to this offense he was in for 1 year to what he was in 2 years ago when he actually played a full season, he had 200 less passing attempts, which is just almost unfathomable. Uh, his first 3 years, he was over 4,000, 5,000 for a year, and then obviously he had an injured year where he was under 4,000. But even last year, he was under 4,000. And while I'm not sure what to think. I know earlier I said I think we see more of the second half once the running backs went down, but then them reinvesting into going out of their way. They could have re-signed J.K. Dobbins, but they went out of their way to what they perceive as an upgrade over J.K. Dobbins with Najee, and then spending first round draft capital on a running back. It makes me think they want to do what they started to do last year before the lad breakout. And so I don't know. While I think he's obviously going to be the number one target earner, have the most yards. We'll see about touchdowns. They're not sticky, but I don't know. I don't. I just think that's close to the ceiling.
I didn't
Let's
mean
move
to
on.
open such a can of worms.
No, it's all right. We love Vlad. All right, getting into the season predictions. I'm the lowest, as we've stated. I've got 55% playoff odds. Reed has them all the way up at 70%, and Tyler 63%, the middleman, almost dead in the middle. That's awesome. Um,
So, Savan, if I can just say, I noticed your playoff odd uh, are significantly lower than the other two, but my championship odds are comparable to both Reed and Tyler. So, are you saying if I get in the playoffs, you're just really afraid that I'm going to win it?
no, the championship is just to get a top two seed, not
Ah,
to win the championship.
that's unfortunate.
If you had a
Um,
21% chance at winning
No,
the whole thing, that would be
yeah.
I know.
very high.
I was just trying to throw some numbers,
It was a
Savon.
fair question, though.
Yes. Championship odds getting a first or second round, for one or two seed, the two buys. I'm at 21%. Reed is the high man at 24%, and Tyler smack dab in the middle again, 22.5%. Um, yeah, like I said, I've got him at the top of this uh playoff aspirations tier, and so uh top six in our rankings for me, and so that would give him just above the 50%. So I've got him getting in the playoffs. Um, Reed, talk about your 70.
You guys are going to be interested in what I have to say here. As we've gone through this episode, it's made me question whether I think my team should be above his team or not. I feel like I've gained a new appreciation for not just top end, but the depth he has at running back, the quarterback duo that he has, the elite wide receiver core that he has in the starting lineup, and Evan Ingram. It's made me question. I still think I'm ahead of him by a slight bit, but it's made me question very much. Should I be pushing him even higher in my power rankings, which I have at 4 right now as the top in the contender tier? Sorry, second in the contender tier with Deshaun, very close to the favorites tier. Made me question that. So I'm a big fan of the squad he's putting out there right now.
I just wait real quick. I want to touch on that. So this morning I was ahead of Rob for you, and he added Jakobi Meyers, and now he's better than your team.
No,
That's where we're at.
materially, that's all it's changed. I'm saying not from like the Jakobi Meyers shirt. I'm saying from this team breakdown, going through each player, looking at the squads together, it's helped me gain a new appreciation. Not necessarily that Jakobi Meyers made him that much better. It
It
was more
was
my
Jakobi
perception
Meyers.
shift.
It was Jakobi Meyers.
I'm also a Jakobi Meyers fan. Yes,
So,
clearly a
Reed,
better flex play than Tony Pollard.
are you? Is it safe to say you're going to throw the label at me that is thrown at the Bears every offseason, and by acquiring Pat, Ladd, Brees, and Jacoby, you'll crown me the offseason
Hmm.
champion this year?
It works so well for the Bears every year. I'm hoping it can work for you this year. Although you did win our redraft league last year, so I really don't need you to be good in this league. You've already got your time.
Yeah, kiss the ring.
Tyler, middleman.
Yeah, Rob mentioned it when we opened that episode, but he has a lot of draft capital still, so I think any concerns about depth that we may have now could easily be shored up by Rob if he chooses to in the middle of the season, if he deals with injuries or underperformance or whatever. So I think this is a dangerous 63 percentage with a chance to be higher if he were to acquire any more players between now and before the beginning of the playoffs. So definitely a lot of good NFL assets, but also, um, you know, plenty of draft capital as well to make a move if he wants.
Good to hear. So wrapping it up, I just want to say week 5 is the matchup between Rob and I. I don't know when you guys play him, but
I have him week 2, and I'm not happy to have him as one of my repeat opponents.
ooh,
Or sorry, week 3. I have him and Ian in weeks 2 and 3. So I definitely did not draw the fun end of the schedule stick this year.
that's true. Yeah,
And I
me
might
and
not have Rice for our first matchup.
oh, I'm looking at it now. I have the Bears and the Falcons on bye
Well,
when we play.
having the Bears on bye is probably good for you. Then you don't have to play Rome.
Yeah, that's not good. All right, so I'm 4-1, so I'll take it.
Anything else before we end the pod here? Rob, any last comments on the team, the breakdown?
Well, first, just really appreciate the opportunity to talk ball with you guys. Had fun hearing your, on occasion, irrational takes on my squad and to break it down with you guys. And looking forward to hitting the fantasy gridiron this season. And hopefully I can live up to the jump that Reed envisions my team can make.
Yeah, no, I'll say I think this is the first out of all 18 episodes. Well, I think 17 with Tyler, that Tyler did not crash out and have a mental
What?
breakdown in the middle of the episode. Because
That's
usually there's a long pause
uh,
and he tries to walk back what he's saying with something like, "No, that's not what I mean. That's not what I'm saying, man."
I mean, I
And
don't think he
then
says it like that, but I think that is a fair point. That does happen often. I wouldn't necessarily say it happens every episode, but it is a treat when it does happen.
I'm just a very
so
calming presence, and I think
yes.
that was beneficial today.
So
that's
T
right.
Tyler, that's a shout out to you. Really, you're really developing. So
Call me the I don't know. Insert joke making fun of you here.
Mr. Slurp.
No.
I mean, he already got in his slurp. He had to slurp up Omarion and how Lad was going to be bad this year because Ian's running backs are going to slurp up the rest of the league. So made sure to
You
get
were
it in
the
there.
you were the one glazing. And I like how we were talking about Robert's team and you start glazing yourself when you said, "Well, your team's not better than mine, but I
No,
can see
that
how
was
it could
literally the
be."
opposite of what I said, was that
No.
I don't know if my team is better than his team anymore.
And then immediately said, "I wouldn't put it ahead of mine though." That's all right. Hey,
Sure.
hey, I actually want to close this one out. So we just finished our 12th and final breakdown. It's been a long, fun off season. I'm glad we started this podcast. When this was an idea, we had everything planned out and it's came to a close way quicker than I could have imagined. I mean, 12 weeks. I was probably 11 weeks, but
It was a
11 weeks
grind.
straight. It's over. Now we get into the rankings. And before we got a football game on in a few days. The season is coming.
I was going to say something while you were talking, and then I forgot what it was. So it's sad.
Sounds like a great note to end on.
Okay. As Cevan mentioned, team breakdowns are over next week. Oh, yeah, I remember what I was going to say. We got through 11 team breakdowns, and the 12th one is the one that we don't hit our Monday publishing deadline. Sad,
Oh
Yeah.
but it's
man.
okay. Hopefully, this will be worth the wait. Next week, we're doing Tyler, Savannah, and I will be discussing our top 30 dynasty quarterback ranks uh, all together. I'm sure it will be a controversial show. I'm sure Tyler will have a crash out at least once, as Savan says, and then it will be a fun one. So we will see everybody next week.